Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode of By the Numbers. I'm sure you've been missing us. Richard Lewis, Doug Dorchild, Sam pressing the buttons. We were going to try and do a catch-up show because we did. We're one behind for the month. We know, patrons. We know you don't need to tell us. And we're going to try and figure out the best way to do that. We're on our busy schedules, but work fucked it up for me yesterday. It was an incredibly busy day for me yesterday. Obviously, shout out to our sponsor, Rivalry.com, proud sponsors of the show. And you can go and support the channel, support the show, support everything by going to rivalry.com/RLS, where you'll qualify up to $350 of VIP bonuses. Definitely go and check that out. How have you guys been? Sam, Duncan, I feel like we haven't talked in so long. I just want to make the first 5 minutes of the show just catching up, just having a chat.
having a chin wag. Me, Richard. What the fuck's this segment? Like some Alan Parker?
We all have a brew.
Yep. I've just bought a coffee. I've just got in. Just let's do the show. But
just add some of that fresh Warburton's bread. That was actually Coronation Street, but whatever.
Yeah, it's all right.
I fucking blurred it all together. None of you all know the references anyway if you're not from the UK.
So you've been doing anything, Duncan? You've been working? Been busy?
I mean,
what is your taxi driver?
I know,
been busy. Time you on till? Time you start?
I have actually been going ham. I mean, by the way, you might find this interesting because obviously it is relevant. But obviously, I've been trying to break through the fucking iron curtain and get my articles on Reddit for League of Legends. So there's no problem. It's a very reasonable process, Richard. I just have to remove any mention of your name ever on the website. And then there's no problem at that point in time. Because remember, it's not even just right that you're banned or that your content's banned. You literally have been unpersoned, Joseph Stalin style. And in fact, any reference that you ever did exist makes me an enemy of the state as well. And I'm off to the gulag. So being as I don't want to stay in that gulag if possible.
Well, what's hilarious is, why didn't they do that for the articles when we were all at VP Esports?
I don't know. That's why your theory actually does hold some merit in that sense. Like just the speculation that it's right after you were like, oh, I've got a brilliant job now. And they were like, destroy him, do everything we can again.
Yeah, do everything we can. Look, this is, I've said it a million times. I don't think it needs to be said again, but I'll say it again because, we do the greatest hits on this show. It's like, when you look at who these people are, like when you actually know who they are, as I do, I can't even begin to describe to you the level of pity. Like it's not even ire or bitterness or anger.
Here's the analogy, right? The analogy is this, Rich. If anyone knows anything about esports, especially like if they were around even 10 years ago, the analogy for a Reddit mod is there's a guy in esports called Hellspawn, right? And he is someone who basically, I mean, listen, I'm not even going to talk shit in the first part. Like myself, we were nobodies 11 years ago, whatever, as in people in the community in the industry knew you, but the general fan base, of course they don't, you just get a name at the top of an article, they don't even look at that shit. But one day, oh, what's that? A little golem finds a fucking ring. Ooh, what's this? Puts it on, a little bit of power. Ooh, definitely won't let this change me or become bitter or anything. What's that? 24/7 got that ring on. Now I've gone mentally power mad, haven't I? I'm killing motherfuckers and doing all sorts of evil shit. But I'm still a good guy because of the precious. Like, that is the analogy for fucking people.
No, but I saw some, honestly, just between them, it's like the meetups and the parties and stuff, and it's like, it's just so awkward and tragic, and it's like, guys, like, you know what I mean? You're barely functional human beings, like, at this point.
Can you imagine if they had like a red carpet event for Reddit mods?
Mate, I think it was that fucking bar in Star Wars, wasn't it? It was that fucking one with Cy Snootle and the fucking Rebo band at the start, like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever, it don't matter. The point I'm trying to make is, like, it's like, imagine, right, you moderate a forum for free, right? You did it to impress Riot Games, who have all deemed you to be unemployable.
So when you say that, though, why did you say that in that phrase? Like, you moderate a forum for free. Do you think this gives you power over me?
You moderate, imagine it.
Is that you and the Reddit mods?
No, don't, right, you've got to get your head into the game and understand how mad it is, right? Why would you do that? Why would you treat it like a job if you were doing that? Like, I understand, like, if you care about community legitimately and you just log in and you go, let's see what's been happening on the subreddit today. Oh, look, someone's gone mental and spammed the N-word everywhere. I don't think that's very nice, not very polite, welcoming. Don't want racist material on there. I shall delete it. Right, that's my 5-minute contribution. And now we just have a cup of tea and we just sit back and we do other normal things. Because remember, you're a functional human with a functional life, friends, interests, whatever it might be. These motherfuckers, I've got to write an essay about it, I think. I already came up with the working title of, like, the moderator spectrum. It's almost kind of like, what was that fucking test? No, hear me out. We'll talk about CS later, guys. Hold on. Right, remember that fucking psychological test? You know the one, I can't remember the name of it now, but you know the one where it's like, there's a dude, and it's an actor, and you have to electric shock them while a scientist
I think it's the Milgram experiment.
Milgram, that was it. Yeah, the Milgram experiment.
There you go.
Right? And basically what they proved is, like, that just because a scientist tells you to do something, you'll basically give someone a lethal dose of electricity.
You can just coerce normal people, basically. Yeah.
Right. So there's something sort of similar at play, that when moderators take over, like at the start, they're like, yeah, it's a bit embarrassing, really. But, it's nice to do something for the community. And then, it's not very interesting, actually, just like deleting threads and answering mails, getting all the hate mail and stuff. They become so embittered at just how shit it is, this thing that they've desired. They start creating, like, new terms, new rules for themselves to justify it, to justify their own existence, their own importance within that role. So they come up with all these, like, mad rules, like, we must delete all front page mentions of games that have just finished, but only within 24 hours and only if it's in LCS. And they just keep making these, like, more and more elaborate rules.
By the way, as an aside, that's a perfect example, by the way, of where, to be fair, it's the culture they have developed on that subreddit, where obviously the whole point is now it's literally at the level of, like, some Stasi shit where you can't even discuss the subreddit on the subreddit. You have to discuss the subreddit on a separate subreddit that's nowhere in any way mentioned that you go there to discuss it. So already that's some mad Kafkaesque shit. But the mad thing about it is, right, people on Reddit, I mean, it's the problem with the status quo. They just accept whatever the rules are. Like, they act as though the rules are like fucking physics, like laws of the universe that no one can defy. So what's mad is people don't even question some of the mad rules. Like, that's one of the ones that I've never understood, Richard, is why the fuck a subreddit would make it impossible to discuss the main thing we're all interested in the next 24 hours on the subreddit. So, like, the biggest match that was played in the game that just happened. Yeah. So the people who explicitly want to discuss that can't discuss that, except with, like, spoiler tags and stuff. Like, surely that's for people, like, you're catering to the people who don't like the game. That's the part I don't understand.
Yeah, I mean, look, let me just give you an example. Sam, how's the PC doing today?
Yeah,
if I give you a link, can you show it?
Yeah, not 1080.
Just give you an example how fucking, like, insane they are. I think you might have saw this too. I just want everybody watching the stream right now to imagine being this creature. I just want you to imagine what it is like to be this divorced from the human race and do something like this and think it's perfectly reasonable. So, lots of people have been upset over in League of Legends about the relevancy rule. So one of the moderators wrote what I mean, it's a fucking screed. It's a fucking manifesto. You're not well if you write stuff like this. Like it's fucking what? How many words? I'm pasting it in Word. I'm doing it. It's 1,400 words, Sam. Basically explaining.
Was it found written on a wall smeared in shit?
I don't know, maybe. It's 1,400 words, and in it, right, look at this, it's just babble. It's just like, these people aren't all there. Look, right, why is moderator curation necessary to keep a subreddit focused? Imagine that you love dogs. That's its opening line.
Wait a minute. Focus. It's the way they say focus. It's like yeah. I imagine Reddit like this, Richard. Like, remember those old forums? Let's have an interesting discussion. Let's see what people want to talk about. Yeah. Their version of being they literally think we're in some sort of a mad concentration camp, and they're that guy out of Whiplash. Like, not quite my tempo, this discussion. You know what? Switch it up a bit. Change this. I need to keep you focused, I do. Imagine them just messaging you. I'm going to need you to start discussing this actually now and stop discussing that other thing. It reminds me, actually, I'll tie this into something, which is, since I noticed recently, Team Liquid just went the extra step of trying to become as mainstream as possible by literally not calling themselves Team Liquid anymore. They're now called TL.net, which is like whatever. So, okay, they've changed their name, right? They've rebranded. But one of the maddest periods, I think, was when all the StarCraft discussion before Reddit used to be on teamliquid.net, right? And the thing is, even though like every old school website you've ever seen, they had a great forum section and, all worked pretty well. And, there was unfortunately, there was no threading on the comments, but whatever. You could like tag someone and embed it and reply to them. So you could have all these great discussions, which is actually what the internet sadly misses now because of stuff like Reddit and likes and the fact that you literally can like deplatform an opinion you don't like in a discussion. Well, one of the mad things about that one was, right, that was a classic example where mods got completely out of control because along the same lines, they would do stuff like, say a discussion was happening. So I once did an article about a very famous topic in StarCraft of like, should like this player be considered one of the bourgeois, which were like, like the gods of the game.
Yeah.
And so these were always like great hypothetical discussions to have because, you'd have other people in there who followed the game for like 10 years going like, well, no, for this reason, I don't think so. You go back and forth. And what would happen was at a random arbitrary point, a mod would just say, I feel as though we've had enough of this discussion now, and lock the thread, even though if he doesn't do that, Richard, all that happens is if people of the sites, users of the site who actively want to have a discussion, it just keeps bumping it up. But he just goes, I don't want to see that on that list anymore. So I mean, actually, it's like if you're in a pub and the guy just comes in at like 8:30 and just goes, actually, lads, I don't like this discussion, so I'm just going to close the pub now because you can all leave now. It's like, why? We're having a nice. I just didn't really like the way that you were going in that conversation. Or don't like Liverpool, so it's like, all right, sounds. It's like,
not really into football, mate. Yeah, I know, man. It's so ridiculous. So it's like whenever I look at stuff like that, it's like again, okay, cool, right? So now. Right. And understand, when did this go down? Like 2015? 2014?
All the mod shit?
Yeah, all this League of Legends. I can't remember when they fucking banned me and told all those outrageous
I think it must be 2015. Must be 2015.
Yeah. I mean, like, it has been 4
I remember
years.
it was when your YouTube channel was starting to pop off. Because in the early days, when you hadn't figured out yet what you now have figured out, which is, even though the best medium will always be the written word because of how much better you can make what you write and you can edit it. And it's your best ideas. The problem is for how long it takes to do written work is like 10 times more than a video, obviously. So the good thing is if you have an idea that you don't want to devote the time it takes to do a proper written piece, you can basically get like 70% of the same ideas just out in a video. And it's it's a good, like, happy compromise. Well, the first thing that you ever really went ham on with those videos, because you used to try and like make them like really curated, like you would with a column, but the problem is you can't put as many out if you do that. So I noticed one of the first things that you were just putting videos out on it was actually the right move, by the way. It's something I learned recently, which is if people fuck with you on one medium where you have no control. So, for example, Twitter's a great example. Say I make a tweet and then, as usual, all the usual cretins come out of the septic tank and fucking swarm like, oh, look, he said one thing I don't like. Right? The actual move isn't keep battling them there where you have no control. It's take them to a platform where you have all the control. Yeah. So what you do is you just take them to YouTube, you do your video, or you take them to text and you do your article on it. And the idea is when someone locks into reading and consuming that, they're getting all your opinions. They're getting all the insight. You're getting to be as expansive as you want. No one can step in and go, actually, so you're saying this? It's like, nah, I'm not saying anything, mate. I'm explaining what I say. So in the same sense, like when you made all those videos, like that was some classic banter because some of the shit in those early videos about the Reddit mods is unreal. Like for anyone who doesn't know, Richard, like this is why I'll tie it back into the whole refresh thing. Like I do hope that even as deluded as some of the people at Refresh are, that at least one person for 1 second in an office somewhere in an industrial area of Copenhagen thought to themselves, at least for a moment, maybe I shouldn't have fucked with all those like veteran journalists and influencers, at least for 1 second, even if you instantly dismissed it and said, what am I thinking about? Let me just take millions from the Danish taxpayer and fuck more people. I'm sure it immediately transferred, but along the same lines, surely those mods look back now and think, why did we fuck with that guy who could get all these like moles inserted into our entire organization?
It just happened again.
Was literally watching us discussing him in private conversations and then airing that. And then we're getting more mad. Like, he's doing that public thing again. It's like they may as well at least turn to the camera at this point in time and be like, hello. I know
one of their go-betweens, right? One of their go-betweens.
Like at this point in time, when they write their diary at night, they go like, "Dear diary, yes, and you, Richard. I know you're watching and see somehow." Like...
No, but it happened again. Like one of their go-betweens hit me up and said, "Right, because I got every time there's like a leak or like like personal information, like moderator logs. Well, no, but people do send it to me. Like what they don't understand is every time they fuck with anyone." That person thinks me and them are the same now, right? Of course we're not. I mean, half of these people are just dribbling, fucking lunatics. Like,
I will say, by the way, one thing I can appreciate if you're a mod or you're an admin on the internet is, listen, I totally understand. I've been a mod and admin, as Richard has on his website in the past. Most people who get banned are lying when they say, it's like the people who get blocked by Richard on Twitter, but I didn't even say anything. I never said anything at all. This, like, obviously, like that
he
person
blocked me for no reason.
Exactly.
Classic no reason.
The best part about
no
those
reason.
people, by the way, is they're not even the people where it's debatable. Theirs really is the comment that's like, I would fuck your mother's cancer-ridden face to death. There's not even any.
I just read that today.
You didn't even block him. You just got muted.
There's not even any tenuous element there, is it? I'm not even having to like fucking mull this one over, am I? Like, they're always so unreasonable. So I get it. I'm just saying, don't use that to then justify being a mad asshole to everyone else. Come on.
Yeah, but like say so that one of their go-betweens hit me up out of the blue because every time there's a leak, right, and I get it, they're always mad paranoid that like so every time there's one, they always try and kiss and make up just for a little bit. Like last time they had a big leak, right, with all that info coming out, they sent this go-between reach out to me like, you want to come smoke the peace pipe and we'll all fucking
every
work
time
it out.
they say that,
lead me along.
I just imagine those scenes in fucking Shawshank when the Morgan Freeman character, when he's not getting the parole until the end, and every time he goes there, he just mails it in because he knows they're just going to fucking turn him down anyway. That's basically what they want you to do. Just do that every year.
So then they're like, oh yeah, Richard, it's been a while and lots of water under the bridge. And as soon as they realised that I had no intention to release this information publicly, like they just walked it all back. Right? Oh, you'd have to not tweet with using any reference to Reddit for 2 years, and it was like, honestly, just like mentally ill shit that no one would ever agree to, right? So I was just like, all right, go fuck yourself. Like, I don't know why you guys keep wasting your time and going over this. So it happened again, and the same fucking dog's body go-between hit me up, going, hey, Richard, there's been another leak, and this time it's real bad, names and addresses. And I'm like, I know. That's it. I know. Go fuck yourself. You know what I mean? I just love it. I just love how fucking mad paranoid they're. I don't know what they think I'm gonna do with all this like information. As I said, like it's hardly the fucking. It's not exactly WikiLeaks, is it? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, okay, people know your name. Relax. You know what I mean? But I've never put it out in public. I've actually done more to protect these fucking losers because they would have a mental breakdown. They're not equipped to deal with the real world. I mean, the most embarrassing leaks I ever had is that one Adagio Summoner. Right, when she got kicked off the League of Legends moderating team, or she had an argument and she left, she created her own subreddit, and she was in a Skype group with all these content creators. Right? No, it's mental, mate. It's mental. It's mental. I've still got them. It's mental, right? So what she did, she had all the moderators in there. She invited them all, saying, "What we'll do is, all the ones who got banned for like vote brigade and everything." She said, "What we'll do is we'll create our own subreddit with blackjack and hookers, right? And
As if it's a real thing, I know.
Right? We'll fuck.
I bet no one came, obviously, right?
No, they all did because think about how many people have been banned for actual vote manipulation, right?
Okay.
So they were all in there, I can't remember who was in there, but it was like what they call bro fresco. You know what I mean? Like it was that tier of kind of people, and they were all in there. But like obviously they were all fucking content creators, so they're all bickering with each other, they're all arguing, all like slagging off each other's work and all that. And she thought that she could like moderate this Skype group chat, right? And she kept calling herself Goat Mom, which is like a character from Undertale, right? So it's just so pathetic. So every time that these moderators would be like actually vote brigading or insulting each other, she'd go, Goat Mom does not approve. Oh, mate.
It's like some mad fucking Bill Hicks sketch.
No, mate. It's some of the most embarrassing thing. This is like a fucking woman in her late 20s who's like married. Like, what are you fucking doing?
Is this like the fucking millennial version of being a cat lady or something? Being a fucking
Goat
Mom.
mate, there's fucking cat ladies.
Mom does not approve.
Right? There's fucking cat ladies who are looking over at this bro. What the fuck are you doing, like, with your life? So honestly, it's what I mean. It's like there's not even any malice from me at this point. It's like, so I'm. You know what I mean? Oh, so I'm still banned from Reddit. I'm sound like every time I've got a new job, just more money, more influence. Like I'm doing fine. Like
there should be some fucking campaign for £2 a month. You can keep goat mom in fucking
Grass.
Oh man, it's mental.
Why?
It's mental. It's mental. Like honestly, and again, as I've always said, like if for some reason I do keel over from a heart attack or I do get Clintoned in the back of the head, it all comes out. It all comes tumbling out. The dead man switch is deployed. That'll be in there. I mean, that's not even a big deal, but it will be in there. So yeah, it's just fucking. They're just pathetic, man. Like why they would ban an entire website. For just because they work with me as a freelancer. And there's the other thing as well. Deserto have got all of their all the media reach of fucking Optic, all of the Call of Duty guys. Yeah. Like they give a fuck about something that is a provably diminishing return, which is Reddit clicks. And by the way, Tencent obviously investing into Reddit. All it's going to take is one of these moderators saying or doing something which, according to the ninth circuit of appeals, all them judges and that, they've now said that if even if you're a volunteer, i.e. a moderator, a website can be held accountable for your actions if you do it in the website's name.
That makes sense, right?
Right, yeah, and it's happened. There's been a couple of high-profile cases. So yeah, all it's going to take is one of these fucking clowns getting a little bit above their station, one manifesto too many, and then there's going to be a court case. Reddit's going to lose, and I have a feeling round about then all the moderator rules will change. But in the meantime, enjoy your little treehouse, guys. It's just sad. See, that was good. That was a good catch-up. I felt like Sam was absent from all of that. I feel like Sam
was here, but
no, but I mean, like, you didn't say anything.
As we call him, goat producer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just so mentally on that whole story. It's like some shit out of a fucking Rick and Morty episode or something, isn't it? Like, what even is that shit?
I'll send you the logs, man. You've got to read it. All right, well, let's start the episode with the questions.
I bet that motherfucker looks like Cartman as well. The actual cartoon as well, in real life.
Yeah, honestly, just terrible scenes. But let's start the episode with the questions that we were going to ask.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, last time, and then we can actually get into talking about some CS. So,
that is egregious as fuck. Like, anyway, we've got to end the episode, so fuck all your Patreon questions. See you later. I'm out.
No, to be fair, that was my fault, because I didn't see that you had a hard out. So that's on me,
true.
not on Duncan, for having a hard out. Anyway, so Reykjavik on Steam asked, what was the original context behind Scoots telling Richard to get the fuck out of my industry? Oh, I don't mind telling this one. This is a classic. So it's from Collusion of Poker 2015, obviously a CSGO major. And as I think me and Duncan have talked about it a bit, like it was one of the worst events in terms of just how brutal the schedule was, how punishing the conditions were. It was really bad. So to put it into context, the first 2 days that we were there, we didn't have access to bottled water, which doesn't sound like a big deal maybe when you're at home and all you drink's fucking Mountain Dew. I know what my audience is like. But when you're working with your voice and you have to talk for what were, for the first few days, 16-hour days, it turns out, yeah, you need water or you're just a desiccated husk, right? So it was brutal. So we had like no water, working super long days, and everybody around us was breaking down. And understand that one of the things that happens when you work on an event and you put all these personalities together, the more personalities you have and the more adverse the conditions, the more likelihood there is of friction, of somebody pissing everybody off, of somebody going completely fucking rogue and just wild. And obviously the chaos begins, right? Because all it takes is one person to rub the next person wrong, and then before you know it, everybody is starting to fucking capsize. Now, me and Semler, what we were trying to do was basically be the sort of galvanizing point. Like every time we saw people start to tip over the edge, I haven't had a drink of water in fucking, 5 hours, and I've been on air for 5 hours nonstop. every time we saw that, we'd be like, listen, guys, we're going to get it together, and to get all of us, we're going to go to DreamHack and we're going to tell them this isn't acceptable and we need water and we need this and we need a runner. Because the stage was literally like a 15 fucking minute walk from like everything else. It was right at the back of, the audience could get to shit quicker than us. We were tucked away right in the back. So, and it was crazy shit. Like, what about that time? You fucking went mental. Because, I mean, and this was perfectly valid, by the way.
I
The
think
Hellspawn
story, didn't we?
Yeah, but I think we told bits of it. I don't think we've ever told the full.
The one about
case.
that Bob guy.
Oh, no. I'm not talking about the don't
right.
you look at me. I'm the captain now shit.
We told
I'm
that
talking
story,
yeah, I'm talking about when we fucking, right, me and Duncan hadn't eaten in like fucking 8 hours or something. And like, usually how it works at these things, if you're stuck on a desk, a runner will get you whatever's the catering going on and all that. Well, I mean, fuck catering at this event. I don't even think we had any. And anyway, like Duncan said...
For
like,
people who don't know, by the way, because this is one thing that might confuse people.
Yeah.
When we say a runner, that's not like some mad diva thing. We literally don't have time to go through people, go to a food area, bring the food, come back. Like, we don't... I remember, like, the only time we have is like a 1 minute break between the game or something. So, like, we literally need the people to get the food. Like, we can't just go... Even if there's food being sold over the other side of the hall, we can't go get it. There's no time.
Yeah, and again, like, the term runner is like an industry thing. It's not like us, it's just like something that comes from the entertainment industry. It basically means you literally do run around and get things that people need. But it's one of those, and often it is in turns and often it is low paid. But
bottom of the rung,
But people work their way up. Like, I mean, a lot of famous people started out as runners. I think, Charlie Brooker's an example who's talked about that. But anyway, whatever. So basically, like, the runner, like, we didn't have one. So there was no way we could get food. So Duncan raised the issue and said, like, it's been 8 hours. Like, can we get someone to fucking eat? Like, we're flagging here. And somebody said, yeah, absolutely. Shit, man. Sorry, that's like beyond the pale. You haven't eaten since breakfast. We'll go do it. And anyway, another 2 hours later, this food still hasn't turned up. So we're walking back, like, finally finished all our segments and heading back. And Duncan, like, said to Hellspawn, the guy at DreamHack, the legend himself, like, what's going on with the food? Like, we didn't get any, what was happening with the runner? And Hellspawn said, yes, the guy who was the runner was an admin as well, and we needed him for something else. So I vetoed you having food, because at the end of the day, the tournament must come first. So I said no to your food. And he just said
it's
it
the
like
idea you never
passing.
say that to someone's face when they're
I know.
well.
The last time I heard a phrase, I said no to your food, it was a fucking documentary about Guantanamo Bay. Right? So anyway, Duncan just looked, and I could see.
Cock
like,
meat
Duncan,
sandwich.
Duncan has this fucking vein in his head, right? And he just fucking went, oh, well, yeah, I suppose I don't need to fucking eat, do I? When I'm working your fucking events, you cunt, or something like that. It was unreal. So I was like, oh, it's all right, Dougie, but yeah, Hellspawn, you are a bit of a twat for that, but yeah. So that's what the whole event was like anyway. So me and Semel were basically going around, putting out fires. I think on the third or fourth day, we all called a meeting. All the talent was there before we went live, and we all sat down. We said it hadn't been good enough. DreamHack apologized, said they'd hit some challenges. Maybe their focus was off, and they knew they weren't looking after the talent. And they were going to change it. And then we got a table by the desk with like snacks on and a kettle. And you could make, tea and coffee. Ooh, the luxury. And there was an incident where the original runner, who was the cameraman and should never have been asked to be a runner in the first place, got pissed off at Duncan for saying, I haven't had a drink of water in 4 hours. So Duncan did shout at him and say, never look at me. That was a classic. Anyway.
Because here's the thing. For anyone who doesn't remember that story, I'll quickly update you again. It's because the thing he said, it's not even just the concept that you say, it's the way you phrase it. If you phrase something, anyone who's ever, by the way, had a long-term relationship with a woman knows this. If you phrase something,
or a man,
you entirely well, I haven't had a relationship with men personally in that sense, but fair enough.
Just adding
make assumptions. Yeah. If you are a different person than me, you may have had other experiences than me. There we go. Has that covered all fucking catch-alls there, right? Anyway, as myself, having my own experiences that I know stuff about, fuck y'all. But the way you say something is what can trigger them. So, like, if this guy had just said to me, like, listen, like, I'm not usually a runner, so yeah, I'll do that for you later, but, please be nicer to me or something, it'd be fair enough. But when I asked this guy something like, can you get me some water, please? Like, I'm super tired. He just goes, why do you have to be so nasty? And it's like, in my mind, I was just thinking about 700 different things. Like, you know what? You now exist just to represent everything that must be destroyed in this world. I am now fucking like whatever, like Manichaean or something. I am the avatar of light. You are evil. I will destroy you. I will exit you from this earth. That's the level I was on. It was like a religious apocalypse on this motherfucker's face. And the best part is, again, I'll quickly tell people the story. Because I said to the guy, because I was thinking so many things, like, how the fuck could Gary even say that to me? What was he even thinking? Like, yeah, I need the water. You can't, like, why the fuck? So all I said to him was, you know what, mate? You don't speak to me for the rest of the event. Talk to anyone else. Talk to him if you want to. If you need to say something. Do not speak to me. And I only meant it as like an overreaction. Obviously, I meant it as like hyperbole. I don't literally mean he couldn't talk to me. But anyway, the end of the story for people who don't know is later on in the show, he needed to direct us to do something. And we just saw him hold up a little piece of paper, like, breaking flag. Because he actually really thought, because he was Swedish, that I was just going to come and like fucking wreck him if he's dead. So
no, but he even did it. He was even coming up to me and going, "Can you tell your friend that we will be going off air in 5 minutes?" I'm like, he can't hear you, mate. Like, he doesn't stop to hear you. Anyway, so this is the level it was at, right?
Anyway, fuck that guy.
Yeah, definitely. This is the level that it was at, right? There was a lot, because you have to understand. No, we flew into Romania, we're straight into rehearsals, we're straight into meetings, straight into a fucking 16-hour day, then another 16-hour day, then like another 16-hour day. I mean, go look at the schedule; it was all over the fucking place. No one was having any sleep, so we were fucking fried by like very early on into what was a fucking major. So it was a long tournament. And anyway, so after the meeting, things had, eased up and died down. But unfortunately, I'd been Mr. Positive the entire time and going around. And every time I saw somebody maybe like falling asleep at the desk, I'd be like, "Look, mate, I'll get you a coffee. 2 more hours. Yeah, we can get through it." You know, every time somebody was complaining, I'd listen. I'd let them bitch and moan, and get it out the system. And then be like, "Come on, man. Like, we're all in the same shit. Like, we got this. Like, we're doing a great show. Everyone at home's loving it. That's what matters, yeah." And that's, like the mantle I took on at this event, because I realized, like, it was only going to go downhill from there. And Semler was doing it too, like Semler was doing it on a more kind of communicating with DreamHack perspective, like sort of bringing us together in like unionization almost temporarily. But anyway, I was fucked by like whatever day this was, like day 5 or day 6. Like, I was dying on my ass, and I was sat like in this seating area, and I was like literally like just crumbling in a tower of myself, like just fucking falling asleep. And, Scoots is sat there and we're just talking. And, like, my breaking point, like with Duncan, it's like food, I think, is a big trigger. My breaking point is if, like, I don't get sleep, I can do, like, 3 days on the bounce and then I'm fucked and then I'm just evil. Like, I just can't cope with it. Like, I just hate everything because, like, sleep's my thing, right? So Scoots is sat there and I'm, like, teeing off and I'm expecting just a little bit of mercy. Like, could someone just give me a pep talk? Can one person give me a fucking pep talk? And unfortunately for me, I thought it would come from Scoots, right? So I'm telling him how tired I am, and he just goes, "Yeah, but what about the crew? They're all tired as well." It's like, yeah, valid point, right? But I'm mourning about me now. I'm mourning about me now. But no, he was just going, they work longer, because obviously he's been in the truck, hasn't he? So he was living in 2 worlds. He's been in front of the camera and knows it's easier, which no one's disputing, by the way. It's different, but the days definitely aren't as long.
Yeah, well, and should have paid more attention in school.
Right? Oh, yeah, because we went to school for this job.
all developed some sort of a niche fucking subculture personality. You're not just being some fucking pleb with a girlfriend and a diary or whatever. Maybe if you hadn't been reading that Tom Clancy book.
Right. So anyway,
tried a bit harder.
So I'm just going, honestly, Scott, and I don't mean this because it's not my modus operandi, and anyone who's worked with me knows this. Honestly, Scott, fuck the fucking crew. What about me? Like, I haven't had a good night's sleep in fucking 6 days. And that was when Scott just said, "Look, well, hey, you know what it's like, man. You know what it's like when you work in this industry, man. Long days, man. Everyone works long days. If you don't like it, get the fuck out my industry." And it was like,
classic
sound. Cheers.
I know. Only 3 days left.
Cheers. So we always joke about it, but I hold no feelings. Like, he obviously still feels bad about it to this day, because every time we talk about it, he always goes like, "I'm so glad you didn't get the fuck up my industry." Like, it's like, obviously, but yeah, I mean, like, we would like. Because he must have been going through the same shit, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So I mean, it was just like
problem
two
is,
crotchety old men colliding.
He's one of
at the
those
wrong time.
people where I don't know how he does it to this day, but like you just can never tell if he's like super tired or wrecked by the event or whatever. Like he somehow keeps like an even keel, even though he must internally be wrecked. Come on.
Oh, mate. He keeps an even keel, but he does always have. I mean, he says they're what, those Altoids or whatever. He says they're Altoids. No way. Like
he's just on like he's like Heisenberg if he didn't need the money, so he just made his own version of like pure meth, just like the good shit, you know.
He's been saving Quaaludes for decades.
Altoid tin. The 70s.
Oh, and he keeps it to himself as well.
Oh yeah, mate. The fucking.
Oh, can I get one of them Altoids? No Can I get one of them Altoids? Nah, sorry, last one. He's always fucking the energy he has.
Oh, Scoots, I found one of your Tic Tacs.
So that hopefully that answers that question. Detlef Insomniac asked, "Can we appreciate how good Nico is as an IGL despite Donald Trump?" I don't know the connection. Can you, Duncan? Can you? He's in the chat. Maybe he can explain what he meant.
I assume he just put the Donald Trump part just to be edgy or whatever. This is one of the problems I actually have is that, sadly, this just shows what pro players are like, unfortunately. They can't separate any criticism of themselves as a player from criticism of themselves as a human being.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why it's very famous that, even someone who must know, here's the mad thing. If a player really doesn't think he's playing shit, then what he gets is indignant that you say that he's playing badly, right? That's one thing. They have a delusion, or rather they just disagree with you that they're playing badly. But there'll be a type of player, obvious example from our own personal experience would be someone like Smith's, where he even himself knows that he's not playing very well at the time, and that's making him feel bad. But then he hears that you criticize him, so he feels doubly bad. So rather than just think either sucks that I'm playing badly and people criticize me, they then try to come at you on some angle of what the fuck on that. So it's half the problem is if I talk about Nico as an in-game leader, I'm going to not only say it's not very good, it's a waste of fucking time, I'm also going to sound vitriolic because it is basically wasting the talent of a lot of the players in FaZe. But the reason why that's so difficult is because as an individual player, he's one of the very best in the entire world. He's actually absurdly good, especially because one of the things I always want to stress with someone like Nico is we've got so many people now in CSGO that are aim monsters. And think about some of those players that were on Hellraisers, like Issa and Woxic. If these guys go off in the game, it looks amazing. But Nico has that and the game sense. So as an individual player, he is so unbelievably good. It's insane. That's why it doesn't surprise me. This is exactly the sort of player who always thinks they can be an IGL. Shocks. NBK, people whose actual individual mind for the game is so good, it just comes easily to them. They just get the game. So unfortunately, they always make the actual mistake of thinking, if I just apply that to all the players in my team, I could be a great IGL. It's mate, that is not what being an IGL is at all. Being an IGL is a new job that you start at. Everyone starts at level 0 and learns the skills from there are no natural aptitude elements. Maybe just being charismatic. That might be 1 foot in the door, but that's still nothing. You're never going to be a great in-game leader. So the problem is, I feel like Nico makes the same problem. It's there's the intelligent player delusion, and unfortunately he doesn't realize. I'll give a quick side tangent here, be very, very quick, which is I would actually even speculate that unfortunately playing in this version of FaZe probably ruined him, because I think he actually fell into the same mistake that a lot of fans did, where they thought Carrigan literally just sat in spawn and did the joke of haha, Nico, go kill. It's if you ever watched what Carrigan was actually doing, he wasn't just running no strats at all. It's just that it would have made no sense to have 2 or 3 aimers going around the corner throwing expert flashes. It's in that scenario, you're better off just having bare bones utility usage. And then actually, in some senses, at times, your in-game leader aspect is going to be tested even more because you're working with very, very limited tactical elements, but you're trying to find what is exactly the right one right now. What mixture of these players can I set up now? What one-on-one can I create? What guy should I turn loose. That's actually a tough choice. That's why there's not a lot of great in-game leaders and managers, etc., who can manage the stars. It's fucking hard. So
and
someone
not
like
only
Nico
that,
probably thought when it was working, this is great. I'm just doing all this myself. It's like you weren't, mate. You didn't know it, but someone was pulling your strings in a positive way.
And not only that, though, I mean,
that's hard.
But also what a lot of people forget is that when Carrigan is given a set of players or a set of roles or a tactical approach, he puts everybody in the place he thinks that they're going to shine, then puts himself in the place that's left over. And you've seen him play like just pure support roles in various iterations of, the Danish rosters that he's been a part of, or the, phase as well, where it's like, he's literally, I guess I'm AWPing here, like he does the donkey work at the end last. So, and that's clearly something Nico's never going to do. So, I mean, immediately there's a little bit more to it than that. But look, I won't harp on about and go over the ground with Nico being a great in-game leader and blah, blah, blah. But it just reminds me too much of the shock syndrome, where it's like you have this really good, talented player. Why the fuck would you want to be an in-game leader? Why would anyone want him to be an in-game leader? Knowing what we know about all the sort of cerebral limitations of humankind, right? Like, you cannot be an amazing, like, he's the number 2 player in the world, You can't be the number 2 player in the world, the number 1 player in the world, and the number 2 player, number 2 IGL in the world, and the number 1 IGL. It cannot be done. It's never been done. So why are you going to be the first? And it's like I say, it's the hubris of that.
The same thing when Cold Zero tried it in MIBI.
Yeah.
Plenty of people have done it. It really is the star player delusion.
Oh, so there you go. Detlef Insomniac clarifies it was a joke, sort of mocking, this kind of like Vox journalists who go, "Can we appreciate?" and all that stuff. And he says that he knows that you hate threads like that, and he worked the Trump reference in because that's what they do. But I mean, you've got your answer now. So look, there was an event. It was in Brazil. Duncan wasn't there. I weren't there.
Most people that are fucking relevant weren't there.
That's a bit much, isn't it? But anyway, so it was the DreamHack Open in Rio. Lots of Brazilian teams on display.
Rio.
He's gone. That's one of the Red Eye album classics.
Rio.
I can't believe it's not Red Eye. Right, anyway. No one even knows what the fuck we're talking about.
I would love that though if they go, Red Eye sings the classics, and then you go, but why did you do it in the style of a pub singer? What do you mean?
We've had this running thing, just so you know, guys. I don't even know if we've ever mentioned it on the show before, but we always have this thing, me and Duncan, where it's like, because Red Eye's like sort of, that classical entertainer,
that kind of voice,
the host. Yeah, exactly. With it, we always have it that he's going to one day put an album out of him doing covers. Called I Can't Believe It's Not Red Eye. And it's never happened. I've even asked him. I've personally DM'd him saying, do you ever sing? Do you do karaoke? Because I want to will it into existence, but it's never happened yet. So maybe one day, maybe we get lucky. Like the Red Eye cover album.
I would just love all the classics. Like go through like pop history, like a puppet on a string.
And perhaps even imagine a world where he changes lyrics slightly so it becomes a bit more CS relevant. That'd be pretty good. So I always had him do an Ace of Base. All that she wants is another baby. I think he's good at that. I think that would be what he could do.
All the classics. I got the key. I got the secret. I got the key to a World Cyber Games.
So if you want that to happen, maybe you could tweet at Red Eye and just let him know that you'd really like him to do a covers album. Anyway, so there they were in Rio. All the great teams like Redemption, POA, and W7M. But there are a few interesting teams here, and I guess we should probably just talk about the final a little bit. Obviously, we've watched this young Brazilian team, Furia, come on leaps and bounds lately. Got some, hot talent on there that we've talked about. Should they be going to MIBR a few times on the show, and should MIBR maybe make some brutal changes, which is the fallen way of doing things. But I got to say, they ended up playing a Vanguard in the final, and I watched the game, and they lost, and it was like another sort of continuation of this malaise that Brazilian Counter-Strike is in because, Yuri put in this powerhouse performance in the final. I've got to say, starting to notice a bit of a disparity between the K-Serato who turns up to LAN events and the K-Serato that dominates in the EPS and all the online leagues that Fury are playing in. And it's just, clearly a psychological block he needs to overcome. Meanwhile, Yuri is pretty much mustard at LAN and online. But just very disappointed they weren't able to overcome a Vanguard, because this isn't a Vanguard that has gone through a little bit of a change. Sure, they still got Jame and Quicket there who are kind of like the duo there, but Buster didn't have a great tournament, and this new guy they brought in, Sanji, didn't have a lot of pedigree. But actually had a really good final as well, and a pretty good tournament overall if you look at the numbers. But I would have had Furia winning this over a Vanguard, no disrespect to them. But yeah, Furia just didn't seem to be able to get it done. So I just wanted to pick your brains about all of this.
Yeah, I would definitely agree on the angle on, like, that's the big problem in Furia is people obviously know K-Serato because he was supposed to be in MIBR. He was one of the players that they were actively courting, but for whatever reason, probably buyout related, they couldn't get him, and they went with Phelps again, just picked him up. So this is someone people are looking at. Maybe it's going to be the next really good player. But I agree, that's the problem. Is I've seen him have a whole bunch of maps that looked really, really good. And you're like, oh, yeah, it fucking is pretty good. But then you watch other games and there are some where he just does nothing on land. And you're like, what the fuck? Where did this player go? And as far as I know, that's actually been the problem in Tier 2 of the Brazilian scene for the last few years. There's been a whole bunch of names that come forwards, but they don't sort of stand the test of time. And so you almost can't blame the bigger team for not picking them up. The one thing I think is cool about the Furia aspect is, though, all the other teams, like, at least half the rosters in Brazil because they're all just recycling the same names. Some of them are even still old 1.6 players playing. Like, it's the same names for the last 4 years. The Furia guys, as far as I can tell, did come up on their own sort of steam. Like, they're their own group of people that have developed separately. So I guess that's kind of cool in its own way. I always like to see like a whole group come up together if they can, or develop like divergently to the other teams. Not like they've just been kicked out of some other squad. The big problem is, and I made a video on this recently, is right now the scene is so desolate for whoever the second best Brazilian team is supposed to be, because all the talent, it feels like, except for this Furia team, has been tried, or is just spread out over different teams, or won't reunite because of drama over the last few years. Like, you're not going to get Henny and Lucas and KNG and these guys back in one team, because why the fuck would they all play in one team again? They already saw that with the last 3 times they tried it, didn't they?
Well, we saw Luminosity also secure a Pro League Finals spot in the ESL Pro League Americas, and obviously that's the team with Bolt and Henny and Lucas and stuff. I feel that's a team that should be doing a lot better than it has been, at the events that they've got to. But again, it just does feel like kind of desolate in terms of when we start talking about these teams. Like, if MIBR is still the best Brazilian team, and you've got all this talent spread out on other underachieving Brazilian sides, it is sort of getting to that point now where it's reminiscent of the French scene. Dominant at one point, then for whatever reason, you end up with 3 teams, all of which are weak, and not living up to the pedigree or the experience of the players. So for me, I almost kind of want to say that the K-Serato having these poor performances on LAN, to me, it adds more to it that I would want to see him mentored by somebody like Fallen. I'd like to see him in a team that has a more experienced leader that can sort of give him some pointers and help him through, because I definitely think he's got the raw talent.
Sure. Well, that's one of the things I have to say. Like, I've actually made this point for the last year or so. People just didn't get it because, to be fair, I did originally make this point when they were still a successful team. But one of the downsides of the Brazilian scene is that basically MIBR is hoarding so many names that you would build a team around, like Coldzera, Fur, Phelps. You can make a team around any of these as like the best player. Obviously, Fallen himself could be a much better player if you decide to make a team just based around him and what he wants to do in the game. Like, they have so many potential options. It's just at the moment they're all trying to make it work in one team. So I've always said this. One of the reasons why, to me, I hope Fallen doesn't like lose fucking faith in his whole career just because this lineup and core doesn't work anymore. Because if he goes tomorrow and he's the one who goes and makes a brand new team with all the other Brazilians, I'd love to see that. I could even see, like you said, him bringing some guy to a new level, or finding some bloke that at the moment is used in the wrong role, and then you put him in this team, so he's dynamite. Who knows? Put him with the Twins or something. See what happens with that. I'd like any combination pretty much at this point.
Well, I definitely like to see him pair up with the Twins. No doubt about it. Speaking of that, obviously, as a few people in the chat pointed out, it's another data point for what's going on with MIBR. I mean, they got absolutely battered by Luminosity in the ESL Pro League.
And remember, they famously they always used to, as I call it, like defend home court. They always used to dominate, not only NA traditionally. Obviously, they haven't done that for a while now, but especially all the Brazilian teams. Like when they used to play Immortals, they would always murk these guys, of course. It's like, because for people who don't know, that's kind of died off in Counter-Strike now because we don't have like regional qualifiers for the World Cyber Games or ESW. So we don't have that thing. Because in 1.6, when you would only have a couple of top teams, a big flashpoint in every year was when teams that were domestic went to the domestic qualifier for a big tournament. Because then the idea was, if you were Immortals in this example, you're wanting to upset MIBR, not only so you get to the event, but so that it's like, I've proved I'm top dog in Brazil. So that mentality still does exist to some degree. You are supposed to sort of beat down the up-and-coming team to show you're still the bosses. So actually, that might sound to most people like, who cares? MIBR's in a bad slump. No, but that's even more telling. The fact that they can't even get it up to play against a team from their country, and they're getting slashed by their old org and a bunch of players they kicked over history. That ain't a good look for anyone.
No, I wonder where it's all going to head. I mean, every day it seems I'm reading like a tweet from one of the players on the roster where they're like, "Don't worry, guys, we're gonna do it," or "We can be the best again." And it's like, who the fuck are you trying to kid here? Like, I mean, fuck being the best again. Just be consistent again. Just go to a LAN and get some results worth talking about. Like, just stop embarrassing yourselves. Because right now you look like you're just out of shit. You just look like you don't have any new ideas or new approaches, and even when your players are performing, you're not getting results. And like you say, a best of one, and the fucking Miami doesn't change that, and we'll never, it's a meaningless.
Especially because the thing that's so killer is like, I know fans do this thing where when the stats go down and you're in an individual slump, people act like, oh, it's just a shit player. It's like the skills didn't just disappear overnight. Like someone like Phelps doesn't just wake up and be like half as good the next day. That is a symptom of like major problems in how they're used, how the team system works, maybe even morale and motivation aspects for the team, and whether people are even fucking on board with what's going on, or if they're doing some aspect they don't like in the game. Because one of the saddest things about the MIBR squad is, what a waste of talent it is. Like right now in the world, we have, again, this is where I had to preface that, right? Because every idiot in the world who just looks at stats is about to say what I'm saying now is ridiculous, Richard. And if you look at the stats, this team's actually better than MIBR. So if you look at squads like Renegades, Ents, these teams can't hold a fucking candle to MIBR for talent. If you want to talk about like mechanical ability to shoot people in the head, no way. Those teams are nowhere on that level, but they're way better teams in Counter-Strike right now. Like you look at the way they work as a squad, those squads are teams you look at and use the old cliche more than the sum of their parts. MIBR's less. That's what's so mad. Like right now, they should be one of the absolute best teams in the world with the roster they have.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. I think something has to change, like overall in the Brazilian scene. They have 5 players. I mean, hell, they might even have 10 that you can put together and make 2 teams. It wasn't that long ago. We're not talking ancient history that was a reality. I mean, just remember, how everything was crazy ahead of the Boston Major, and how things could have been very different.
That is still the what if, isn't it? What if 100 Thieves had been able to get there? I would have loved to have seen them at least give it a go.
Oh, absolutely. And, we never got that. But those players still exist. Some of them are still in good form, but they're not playing with the same players that they were playing with, or they're playing in teams where the impetus is different. The KNG equation is the worst. Like, just watching KNG kind of swirl down the toilet. It's got to a point, honestly, where, like, I almost want to have a fucking whip round.
It's depressing, isn't it, basically?
And like get a top immigration attorney to find out why this motherfucker can't get a visa, why teams don't want to touch him. It's look, obviously a lot of people seem to think me and him had like our differences. I mean, I think all I ever said was he was going to be his own worst enemy. I feel vindicated in that with the
Oh,
way
that's
things
what's
have
crazy,
gone.
Richard, is this is the maddest thing about, if you think about how many problems KNG's had, like online incidents, problems. The bizarre thing is, as far as I can tell, not a single person he was embroiled in beef with actually wanted to be in an argument with him or
No.
did anything initially to him, really. Like, it was always his response, like the tone of how he'd respond,
Yeah.
the nature of refusing to apologize. That's why he really was his own worst enemy. Like, I don't even consider myself like his nemesis or some foil or something. Like, of all the people who've come at me, I actually just sort of pity him a bit, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, I think the other thing here is like, you know, I can almost identify with it a little bit. There was definitely a period in my life where it was like I would always go to the sort of most extreme response
Oh, of
if I
course.
felt under attack or threatened. It's very hard to kick that mentality when that's how you've been living in all aspects of your life. Perhaps it's something you don't necessarily want to kick because maybe that's an essential part of, like, you know, where you're from, your identity, how you might need to live in the future. So you know, I think what happened there was like just a real tragedy, and even like the apologies and even trying to work his way back and everything. You know, he's fallen off a cliff, and like he should be on one of these top Brazilian teams. Like he should have been one of the solutions to the problems we're talking about. I hope he gets it together. I hope maybe, you know, somebody can intervene and help him out, because he's the one. He's the one that's really gone missing that could probably take one of these teams and kick it up to the next level. And you've also got to ask as well that if even the Twins, you know, seem to have issues playing with him now, and maybe aren't so keen on that idea, that's, you know, he's all out of allies. Like, you know, at this point, it's where you've got to ask for
For
you've got
people
to
who
show
don't
real
know,
contrition.
the real reason the Immortals lineup died wasn't even just KNG. Like, they were just like, no, Winston just kicked KNG. There should have still been a team, and you would replace him. At the time, obviously, Phelps was the person they were looking at as a replacement. The real problem was, and this is why it ties into what Richard just said, is that the Twins then said they wanted to be benched and like requested a transfer or something. So basically, these guys put their careers on the line for KNG, and then even they don't want to play with him. So it's like, whatever direction that's fucked up in, it's like something behind the scenes is not good with some of these players. Like the mix doesn't work very well. So that's the other reason why I find it depressing, because it's like, I just don't see how you're ever going to get those like extra players you're talking about that you need to all have in one team, because there's clear talent you've got to put together.
Mm. And look, I think this is one of the areas where, for all we talk about players associations and you know, people that are in a position to provide like legal expertise, accounting expertise, the one thing we don't have that you definitely do have in mainstream sports is there isn't a sort of group of people who explain what your life is going to be like once you start becoming a big esports star, and the perils and the pitfalls, and, you know, why you can't do some of the things he did. I mean, look, right? Even if you think he was justified in going out and seeking FNS, to have a altercation, be it verbal or physical, even if you're the kind of person who thinks that's justified, I don't see how it can be, but whatever. That's the kind of thing that's going to get you banned from tournament circuits. If you're the kind of person who thinks that he's justified to get into a Twitter spat with a very popular and influential analyst in the scene and intimate that not only is he a homosexual, but there is something wrong with homosexuality and that it is an impairment in some way, I'm going to tell you, you don't want to be doing that in public. People aren't going to forgive that kind of behavior anymore. And with the rise of cancel culture, as it's called, you don't get a lot of wiggle room to make mistakes. You know, as I know, as you know, right? You fuck up once and you hear about it for the rest of your life, and maybe you never get a shot at redemption or fixing things. Maybe your apology never gets accepted. And there has to be somebody who could be like, listen, this might feel like good at the time, like you blowing up on Twitter like this, but the position you're in, the influence you hold, the opportunities that will come your way, it's all going to be for nothing if you behave like that. You know, get to make the fuck you money, make the status, get to a period where you're untouchable if that's how you want to live your life and do those things. But you definitely weren't there yet, and I feel we saw a talent in its infancy kind of get crushed by. I know, like even you were giving him better advice than people around him. It seemed, and yeah, it's just a shame. It's just a shame because in my heart of hearts, I honestly kind of think it's too late for him
Oh,
to kind of
I
turn it
kind of
around.
do, especially because, like as you say, unfortunately, the real killer, and this really is in many ways telling about how the esports industry is at the moment. What's mad is the killer. I would have assumed would have been the fact that like he set such a bad cultural precedent to all future teams of like, if I do something wrong, I won't cop to it. I won't even do a token apology. I will not acknowledge it. And obviously, the way Immortals broke down, if you remember the thing where he's supposed to be benched and then he subbed himself in and then he was arguing with the fucking owner, like publicly, all that stuff makes it so that alone should basically kill your career because no one would want to pick you up after that. But what's mad is he got lucky in a sense that because MIBR's core went so to shit that they were desperate to get back to the top. That's why someone ghost wrote that apology. He was going to be the player in MIBR. So what's mad is in the end, what really killed him in some sort of like Al Capone getting done by his taxes route is just the immigration thing, as far as we can tell. Like that part, as well as his history, is just that he can't escape the like event horizon of that. That you had a really bad history of being a teammate and sticking around in teams, and you might not be able to get in the country. Oh, you can't do that, mate. There's so many events in America. Like it's harsh, but if anyone knows anything about visas, etc., in America, you fuck up one time, it never fucking goes
they don't.
after that.
They don't fuck around, and
So I gotta tell people,
it's
even
so
I now
hard
have
to
to do
walk
that.
it back.
When I now have to do my ESTA, I have to tick that fucking box that says, were you ever declined for a visa? So even though it's totally legit reasons, I didn't do anything wrong, even I have to do like this extra review. So like it can happen to anyone. So if he also did somehow have some problem, it's going to be hard to escape that, mate. It's going to be so hard.
Some quick thoughts about a Vanguard, a tournament win. I still look at this Vanguard team, and it's like I'm not saying it's like a placeholder roster for anything. I think they're doing very well, but I still just think about a world where we can get Quicket and Jame onto an RV, or maybe some new investor comes in and puts together a CIS super team, of which there is definitely enough talent to do, or maybe Virtus Pro stop fucking around picking up Polish players who I have literally never fucking heard of, right? Like they're down to like ranked 7th in Poland now. Like stop with the Polish stuff, and they go back to their CIS roots. But I'm happy for a Vanguard winning a tournament. They beat Furia. That's definitely decent opposition based on what we saw. And Quicket and Jame, like you say, Buster had a poor tournament. I still think there's something salvageable there. But Quicket and Jame especially, continue to be real standout talent in that region. So, any thoughts about sort of a Vanguard? Are they ever going to kick it up a notch?
I mean, the thing with their team is if I watch their team play, like, yeah, some of the players are all right. I wouldn't mind some of them getting a shot, but they don't really I don't watch the team in the game and go like, wow, the eye test is amazing. This team's so fucking skilled. But tell you what, you cannot argue with their results. Like this team overperforms so many times. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Like I actually have to, that's one of the things I will always give additional credit. Like I said, with the thing with Furia, if people come up as an entire unit all together and go up, that is so, like Ents is doing over the last year, that is so sick because obviously the shortcut for everyone is to be ruthless, is to be like, right, well, I'm doing pretty well in this team where I'm set up to look good. What's that? I get an offer. Sorry, guys, I'm out, right? I'm off. And then when you're the guys who, at the moment, we don't know yet, invisibly behind the scenes are great team players, good thing, it takes you forever to come up because every time you're going up and you get the ball near the top of the hill, the star player leaves, you roll back down and you have to start from the top. It's the same thing that, as I've mentioned many times in the past. It's basically the life of like MSL as an in-game leader and people like Pronax over the years. You're always struggling with the fact that your skill set doesn't show up on the scoreboard or it doesn't pop on the screen. What you do is amazing. So I think there is something there. I would agree. There's something with the core of this team. Like put it this way, if you contrast them with the teams like Vega Squadron and the other squads that were in the CIS region, those are teams that just frag out if they beat you. That's it. They play a very aggressive style. They frag out. This team it's a proper team as far as I can tell. Like I've actually been very impressed generally when I've watched them play. They play to the level of their opponents. They can actually match up with some of the better teams. The big problem is like economically, there's no way they're going to get a big name, so they can't really get better players themselves. And as you say, you do feel like one of these days, this is one of the things I feel like. I actually feel bad for any CS fan who only started watching a year ago, because you don't realize how alien this current like moment is in Counter-Strike. Like the idea that a team like FaZe Clan has all the star players, yet considers like no in-game leader acceptable to be in their team, even though that's like saying I'm going to build an amazing Formula One car and have no fucking driver. Like it doesn't make any sense, does it? Like you wouldn't even bother with the investment if you weren't going to do that. Likewise, when you look at Astralis and everyone's doing these articles and videos like, who will beat them? Probably no one. They'll probably just win forever. It's like, guys, it doesn't work that way. Like one day they will just be worse. They will just be not clicking. One player will be in a slump. One map will go to shit. You'll lose 3 tournaments in a row, and then the motivational like these things all happen. So likewise, the one that's a killer is it feels like nothing can happen in the CIS. They're in a mad stalemate. But that's just because, bizarrely, Na'Vi just refuses to change lineup, even though they've had the same lineup now for like quite a while. We're talking well over, it's like a year and a half or something at this point in time. So they've just held on to that lineup forever, probably sadly, because Simple just makes them relevant constantly. So they never felt like they ever had to make the panic move that the MIBR did, bringing in the KNG or Phelps or whoever they wanted to get. So until that moment happens, nothing is going to happen in the CIS scene. But the point is, the second Na'Vi ever decides to change a player, everything could change. We can have a total shuffle and make the whole scene fucking sick.
Oh yeah, they've definitely got enough parts. Yeah, and you're right. It is just a weird time in CS's history because, like, let's be honest. It definitely, and I feel like I update this every month, but definitely the weakest top 10 I've seen in a good while, probably of all time.
I think the effect of contracts and buyouts has now really felt. Now we know how like the reason why this sounds mad is because me and you know this. If we go back, it doesn't even have to be 10 years. People just could choose just not to even acknowledge a contract existed. You just had the player. Next event, the player's just wearing your jersey. And what you basically told the other manager is, I've got you by the balls here, mate. So either you make a deal and officially sell him to me, or fuck you, I'll just take him. Like that. I used to say even 3 or 4 years ago when players were having disputes with their team, like, listen, mate, you've got all the leverage. Just tell this guy, fuck you, and I'll go leave the team if you don't do what I say. That world has ended now. We live fully in the world where these contracts are real, and if you can't meet that guy's buyout, he's just not going to your team. That's why, for all the idiot fans in every chat, because I know Cloud9 has 1 million fans, I don't know why you guys still make out like Jack has to sell these players. He doesn't. That Na'Vi has no problem keeping Simple locked in a fucking tower somewhere. All these other players, MIBR, Cold Zero can't even get out. He's like, Cold Zero's like fucking Papillon trying to get out of that fucking prison that is MIBR at this point in time. He's on a lifetime sentence. Not bad, is it? He's on a lifetime sentence at this point in time. Taco's obviously like fucking Dustin Hoffman or whatever in that analogy there. So in this scenario, right, these guys can't leave. Why does everyone just get to leave Cloud9 if they want to? Why does everyone just tap their fucking red shoes and go home?
The one thing I've always thought about as a kind of thought exercise though is like, for all that the top 10's weak and like there's all this like talent kind of spread out all over and people being held to buyouts and everything else, if you Thanos like fucking Astralis out of existence, would we be thinking this was a super exciting period in CS?
Oh, I think people would. Here's the thing, because obviously we've seen it. Whenever Astralis doesn't win, the whole reason they don't have a current contender is like, for a start-off, Team Liquid don't win themselves, even though they clearly look at the second-best team. So as a result, you would have a mad turnover. As you see, it would be Na'Vi winning an event, FaZe winning an event, Ents maybe wins an event, who knows, maybe Renegades can win an event. We could actually have an insane scene. Now, here's the problem with that, though, is to continue the thought experiment. Even though to someone just looking at headlines on HLTV.org, that might be exciting, I actually don't think it would be as cool as what we currently have, which is the exact same teams all trying, and admittedly naively, not being able to, trying to topple Astralis. Because if anyone actually does topple Astralis, even if Astralis helps them out and gets worse, it's going to be an amazing storyline. Because I can tell you, when the past great teams fell, NIP, Fnatic, SK, I always make this point. You don't fall and just go to number 2 and still win events. You tend to fall and now you just don't win anymore. So whoever can topple them, it's going to be amazing. I don't know who it's going to be. I still feel like the obvious choice should be Na'Vi because you've got the best player in the world. So if you just fix that roster, surely that can do it. But who the fuck knows at this point?
So here's something we didn't talk about. Obviously, Vertigo was on display the last few tournaments. We kind of just graced over it being introduced.
Have you played this map, by the way?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not a fan of it. Like, I don't, by the way, I'm not
yeah,
someone, just for reference, I'm not someone who's just a hater of all new maps and thinks you can't have any new map. I don't think that's the case at all. But when I play this map, like, I've played it enough now that it shouldn't feel like stupid, basically. But I do feel like it's just like a DM. Like, I hate that map. I think it doesn't feel like Counter-Strike to me in that traditional sense, and every other
yeah.
map does to some degree.
Well, like, okay, it's tough. I mean, one of the reasons why I didn't want to like just immediately jump on it is that what the thing I'm always worried about, because I've been here many times before in various versions of CS, is that whenever we have change, and you need change, there has to be change. There has to be evolution. There has to be something a little bit different about the game, sort of on a regular
Sure.
basis, to keep people interested, to keep people coming back. Because the top tier of your scene is always a little bit beholden, a little bit dependent, except it's a very rare cases like Brood War, by it having this huge player base that basically
Sure.
funds and props up the esports component of the scene. And if people stop logging in and stop playing because there's nothing to do in the fucking game anymore, and it's the same game it was 2 years ago, you're in a bad place. So I always tell people to try and embrace the change. And the thing I hate more than anything in CS is like every time the new map comes in, everyone says the new map sucks. We're not going to play it. We're not going to learn it. It's now our permaban. We put it off and we put it off and we put it off. We've only just got to a place now where we have probably the majority of the teams in the top 10 are willing to play Nuke. And let's not forget, one of those teams is unbeatable on Nuke. So that's where we're at. How long did that take? And now everyone's trying to avoid Dust 2. No one wants to play that, except again, you have one team, the second best team, that will play anyone on it, and Ents will play it too. But most teams will try and either they'll risk it if they absolutely have to in a best 3 veto, or they get rid of it because they don't want to play it. And now it's Vertigo. And now Vertigo's in the pool, and no one really wants to play Vertigo, and no one really likes Vertigo. Now, the difference here is I thought the criticisms of Nuke and the evasion of playing on Nuke, I don't like Nuke. I don't like the new Nuke. I didn't like the previous version of Nuke. I've never really liked Nuke, honestly. I liked 1.6 Nuke. I didn't like it in Source. It was too stupid, and then of course we got to a point where it was too one-sided, and then we got to a point where Deagles would just fucking laser beam or destruction, like insta kill, nightmare, 100% accuracy, and the French fucking just started dominating Nuke. T side, CT side, it didn't matter, and then that was a reason to hate Nuke. And then in CSGO, I don't think we've had a version of Nuke that creates exciting games, has good moments, really has the same level of tactical depth as previous iterations. So I'm not a fan. But that being said, compared to Vertigo, this Nuke map is give me that any day of the week.
Yeah.
And it Vertigo, like you say, it at the moment, and I don't know if it can change because it feels a little bit like when they brought Cobblestone out for the first time, and Cobblestone was like too big, and the rotations were too slow, and the choke points weren't right, and there was weird little surfaces on various parts of the map that created these like weird little anomalies, and like where people could see you but you couldn't see them, and other fucked up shit. I kind of feel Vertigo's in the same place as the reworked Cobblestone when they dropped it before the Cologne Major, in the sense it's not ready for competitive play. And we're basically using the competitive scene as the ultimate kind of final focus group on what we need to improve. I think the games on it are boring. I don't think there's a lot of great tactical depth yet. There's some kind of like boosts and smokes and stuff you can throw that I'm not too sure should be in the game that I've seen, like video wise. They almost look like kind of bordering on an exploit level. And so far, I think a lot of the games it's produced are really one-sided and not fun to watch, and like you said, just like a death match. That doesn't mean it can't be improved, but it needs like a radical overhaul. And I think the key thing is any map, have you noticed? We're talking about Nuke, we're talking about Cobblestone, we're talking about Vertigo as maps that need so much work and even then never get there. It's the verticality, I think. They all have that in common. They all have this weird vertical component to it. And I don't know if it's something to do with that. Maybe you can't design CS maps that way. Maybe CS isn't meant to have that in maps. I don't know. I just think Vertigo is going to be one of those maps that it's in. No one wants to play it. The people who play it begrudgingly, and then it's going to get taken out because it ain't ready yet.
Like the weirdest thing about Counter-Strike has always been like it's the same in all areas of esports, to be fair, is there are so many assumptions that just go unchecked and you just even forget about it yourself. Like I do the same thing myself. If you asked me about Counter-Strike and I was telling you, well, here's what I like about it as a game, blah, blah, blah. Like what I wouldn't even be thinking is like my perception of it as a game is obviously massively influenced by the maps that I play the game on. Like the way the map that you play, the side that you're on and the spot that you're at completely changes how fun it is, how hard it is, how like intelligent a game it seems, how much just like an aim fest it seems if you're at certain spots. So as a result, I always make this point. It's like if Valve doesn't feel like it's something they should put like massive focus on, like, you know, having a whole team who develops maps and like cycling through them. And as we're alluding to here, one thing that really needs to be done is even figure out like core concepts, like what does make a good small site, what makes a good rotation area. Like I couldn't even tell you myself. I could make some speculations, but after talking to the people who do the map making, the problem is the people who do the map making tend to be pretty divorced from esports and some of the things that I would consider like competitive concepts. Like they really are a guy who just wants to make a cool terrain for public players to play on. And then as a result, you know, things that he thinks are fun or are going to be like a clever part of the map either don't work in competitive play or might even be actively stupid. Like maybe he's made an area that a noob can't make. It's basically, it's like a version of the balance argument from every other game. Like if anyone who doesn't know, the reason why really popular MOBA type games like League of Legends basically can't be simultaneously very good for plebs and the best players is you get champions in the game that are just way too good when someone really good handles it, that they have to nerf it so that for anyone who's not really good, it's pure shit. So you get champions that have like a 40% win rate, but then if the top best player in the world played it, you just dominate you completely. So it's the same with maps, basically. Like a lot of the cool things that you probably would want to do for the noob, well, you're banking on the fact he hasn't played CS a billion hours. He probably hasn't played the map a billion hours. But the problem is in pro play, everyone in pro players played the game a billion hours and will try to play this map a billion hours. So what are the odds you could design something that would stand the test of time? What are the odds that you'd have something with all this nuance? I don't blame them. It's an impossible task almost because basically no one does design esports CS maps. What you do is you design a map and then it just happens that some of them end up in esports. And then of those ones that end up in esports, some of them end up being good. And really no one shows it. It's like some sort of fucked up natural selection type scenario.
Yeah, and look, it definitely can be done because I didn't like Overpass when it first came out, and now that's a staple of the scene. I didn't like Cash necessarily when it came out. I mean, fucking, we'll take Cash over fucking Vertigo, no doubt about that. And the depressing thing is, there are already maps out there. I think, obviously, the big one is Tuscan. Like that has to come back for me. Like at this point. You've tried Cobblestone, you couldn't get it right. I mean, when we launched CS:GO, it's like clean slate, forget all the history we've learned. Well, what history lessons did we learn? Well, how Dust won, DE Dust, and fucking Aztec, no cunt wants to play them, and they're ridiculously imbalanced. Well, we'll start with those maps in the game, shall we? Like, I get it, it's nice to roll back and have the nostalgia, but if you wanted to have an esports scene, you know, you've got to think about the maps that worked competitively. Tuscan, you know, the ones that fucking twisting in the wind.
That you actually nailed something there as well, because I remember when they even first were making Source and the first screenshots were leaked, the first map they showed was fucking Aztec. I remember everyone in 1.6 was going, you know, no one likes that map. Like, why would you remake that map? Like, it's the same problem. Like, to them, they're like, it's a really fun, casual map, man. It's like,
I don't even think it's that. I think the thought process is literally every time we create a new version of Counter-Strike, we want to pay some homage to the fucking great history. And because of that, we get set back, and then we have to come up with our own shit again. And I almost understand why Valve do that. It's because of the fucking community not embracing change. They think everything has to be the same. But it was, yeah, you're right. It was the same in Source. I know Source wasn't your jam. Obviously, I was there from the start. Hey, want to play Dust 1? Want to play Aztec? No. Want to play fucking one of the most outrageously one-sided versions of Cobble we've ever had? No. Want to play Piranesi? What the fuck is this? Like, there was so many maps that came out that in the end, when the CPL branded maps came in, um, it makes you think. Actually, there was some good maps that definitely could have been purposed and turned into something that we could have used in CS:GO. I think Fire was a fucking good map. It was a good map that
That's
never
some good
got its due.
concepts.
Yeah, and obviously Tuscan is the sort of updated version of Mill.
Yes.
Ruska was a little bit too big. I want to say it felt like the same size as the Cobblestone when that got relaunched. But I think you could scale that down. And again, it had some good concepts. It had, some good bomb sites. It had, lots of good choke points that you could have some good firefights in. I had a soft spot for Contra. I understand that's not viable, but just the way how it got over its size by having that drop down in the water and you speed up in Source, but whatever. I know that wasn't super popular. But let's just talk about ones that came through in the last wave. Like, why is it Vertigo that got picked? And I know people are saying, oh, Vertigo, it's got that history, it's got that pedigree. Sub-Zero, for me, was a map that should have got a shot. Like, if we're not going to bring back Tuscan for whatever reason, and there is no reason, because by the way, from a copyright standpoint, Valve can just have that anytime they want.
Yeah.
It's not just made in a Valve game using for a Valve game using Counter-Strike as the concept behind it. It's actually made using VTF files. Which Valve owns.
Also, for anyone who doesn't realize, like as we've just alluded to with Tuscan and Mill, if you really want to, it's so easy to make a map just with the same architecture, slightly different textures, and change one little thing and just say, "What do you mean? My map's totally different to yours." That's so easy to do in CS. Like, even if there was some sort of claim, they could get around it without much trouble at all if they wanted to.
Like, if you brought Tuscan back, maybe reluctantly, because that new version of Season is shit. But maybe, because somebody has at least half worked on a version, maybe you can do something and get it closer to the source version of Season, which I thought had potential. Again, it would need to be squashed in a little bit more. I always thought it was slightly too
one
big.
thing I think would be a good criteria for doing this with maps, and sadly, I think this goes completely against how Valve think about their community, is one of the reasons I would vote for Sub-Zero to come in the map pool is because the person who made Sub-Zero, obviously the guy who made fucking Cash, has shown he actively wants to engage with the esports side of the community, will actually take on board feedback, and has updated his map without the need for reworks. The reason why Cash hasn't been reworked is because he's been reworking it the whole time. Like, for example, when the body wallbang just did too much damage, he changed it. Yeah, he made it so it didn't. It was like, this guy's shown actually that he's in tune with things in that sense. And you notice, by the way, unlike Cobblestone, unlike Nuke, there are, even though Cash is one of the least played maps, if you go back to last year, that never got the same hype around it of like remove it from the pool. There was so few teams, even teams who didn't like it, weren't like, this is probably going to be number one. So that suggests to me that no matter what you think of the map, he got it to a good place and he did keep it updated in a way that made people think it should be around. So that's a great precedent to set if you want to bring a new map in, and let's start wherever it starts and see where we end up.
And I think that, to his credit, and I think this is the measure of a great map. It's why I don't think Mirage should be pulled, and it's why I like Mirage. If you were to ask anybody at any period of time, over a year, is Cash T-sided or CT-sided? Everyone had a different take. And we went through phases based on other balances that were happening in the game, where Cash was CT-sided and 11-4 half, not beyond the realm of possibility. Then it was unbelievably T-sided. We had that phase where it was like people would regularly post 11 on T, and it was... The map, for all of its simplicity, had a versatility to it that you could change things in the game and change how the map was played. And in the end, we got it to a place where it was 8-7, some unbelievable, an 8-7 kind of map, as I call them. And you had some unbelievably great matches on there. It has a tactical component, but it also has a high aim threshold. There's lots of great headshots and pre-fire spots. Like, it really can bring out the best in high skill players. I think Cash is a fantastic map, and very perplexed at the way it's been treated. In terms of other maps that could have come through in over Vertigo, obviously Sub-Zero is one. I see people talking about Abbey. Didn't really do it for me. there was a lot of pros when Canals first came out, kind of playing that because I think it was in FPL for a bit. Don't know about that either. Definitely needed
One
some
thing
work.
actually, because this is something I totally get it, by the way. Like, one reason
Mm.
that's a very valid reason as to why people don't want new maps is that, yeah, a lot of them are bad, especially when you first get them. And a lot of them, like, haven't got all the concepts nailed down. You haven't fixed this site and this box and all the rest of it. But one of the things I always thought they should do in the game is just get rid of the realism aspect, as in, like, not change the physics of the game, but for the maps, let people go crazy with their imagination. Have a map where it's all the concepts of Counter Strike. It's bomb sites and sites and stuff, but I don't know, it's in some fucking fantasy world or something, or it's in a fucking another planet or something. As long as it still adheres to the physics of the game and the concepts of the competitive game are the same, you can do anything you want with the textures and what you want the concept of what the aspects of the different pieces on the map are, like a vehicle that you hide behind or something. You could do a lot of really crazy shit that would be fun.
And I think like having that as a design philosophy would sort of precipitate some of the necessary changes. Because let's be real, the next version of Counter Strike is in no way Islamic jihadists and
It
the
can't be,
fucking
surely.
CIA running around. One's planting a bomb, the other's trying to stop them. Terrorists. It's not happening, guys.
People
They're
don't
gonna-
realize that was just fine, because, like, this is the sad thing. The real reason, by the way, why that whole issue's gone to shit now is because our everyday lives get affected by terrorism. The problem is, in the 90s, if you did a movie where the bad guys are Islamic terrorists, that's like a fantasy concept to someone who lives in England in the northeast in a fucking house just playing video games. Like, you're never ever going to encounter that. Like, it's nothing. So the sad thing is, it's just become too real. Like, that's just not
exactly.
a cool fantasy concept anymore.
And listen, I'm always a proponent of it's a game. Obviously you should be able to explore these things. The problem becomes not when it's a game that you play at home. That's fine. Like, I don't give a fuck what's in the game. I don't want people censoring games, blah blah blah. It's an art form, it's a medium, so obviously I want it to be open and broad. But when it comes to esports, that's the problem. That's where you have the issue, because you want esports on television. Well, you all want to fucking get down and worship the fact that Turner Sports actually has a fucking backbone. Because I'll tell you, anything owned by Disney will not touch Counter-Strike. And
By
they
the
own
way,
25% of all media on planet Earth right now.
yeah, if you want to corroborate this, what Richard just said, anything owned by Disney will not touch Counter-Strike. There's a website called ESPN. They have an esports section. Go to the website now and find the CSGO section. Go and look for a tab that says Counter-Strike Global Offensive. You won't find one. Now they report on CSGO. You'll never find a tab because they live in the mad world where they cannot acknowledge that is a game they cover.
Yeah.
That's how mad that is.
Oh, for sure. And I've had the conversations, like when these CLG fucking bellends, come out and go, oh, we can't touch CSGO. We've had a team persistently fail and spiral downwards for 2 years, and we've decided to cut them loose. And it's nothing to do with money. It's all to do with, perceptions, and sponsors don't want to sponsor CLG if we have a CSGO team and other lies. But I've definitely had the conversations with big sponsors and potential sponsors who don't want to touch the game. It's got the word terrorists in it. This is an American market, like it's amazing that we've been able to have the esports scene we have despite these things. So I agree with you. I think embrace the design philosophy of being, let's not go fucking Fortnite. I'm not saying that, but yeah, like, just open up the ideas a little bit, embrace some change. It's why I'm not out there. I'm not criticizing Vertigo out. Like, publicly, I've said nothing about it. This is the first time I've talked about it. I say let it ride out. Let it do its course.
I'd use the same logic that we had about the broadcast rights, right? Even if you don't like the idea of Facebook, and yes, it didn't turn out to be very good, the Facebook stream, the premise of having broadcast rights bid for and new companies entering the space is overwhelmingly a positive one. So in the same sense, even if Vertigo is shit, and maybe it always ends up being shit, maybe it's just one of those bad maps, the premise of including a new map and trying a new concept is a very good one.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I've said what I would like to see is maybe not just one, maybe we go two. Like, why not, right? I mean, we all get fatigue. There's a lot of Counter-Strike. There's a lot of content. We all get fatigue from watching it. Even people like me and Duncan who fucking live this shit get fatigued from watching it. when you have to sit there, having a dump.
I actually
in a fucking
didn't
laptop,
realize
watching a VOD of some shit game.
That's the thing. I would have told you, Richard, like, nah, I can watch Counter-Strike forever. But what I realized is I wasn't actually being like, there should be a lot of square brackets in that sentence. Like, what that really means is I could watch Counter-Strike, square brackets, at a really important tournament, square brackets, with the best teams in the world who have a really good matchup playing on maps that are like, there's about 15 caveats to it, because I actually have found, as I mentioned in the past, if like this DreamHack Rio event, if I just tune in for a random game of that, I'm going to tune straight out 5 minutes later. It's just not going to hook me in, is it? Like, I don't care about the players. It's the same map, but it's not going to be the best level performance. So you really do need some like high level shit to make you really want to watch all the time. Or, some novelty can be a good way to draw you in.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I think we're getting in the right direction. I hope the community is as bad as Vertigo looks to be at the moment, and the type of game it's creating, the type of match it's creating, on the few occasions it comes through. I sincerely hope that people will not like turn on Valve too much. Yes, I agree. I don't think it should have been Vertigo that made it through. But the idea is right, and if anything, we need to broaden this concept. I'd like to see it. I've said it before. I'd like to see seasons where we have half a year we all play with these maps, half a year we all play with these maps. The classic maps cross over, but actually there's a lot of change and a lot of flex. And this would liven up the scene, liven up.
It would also even be awesome. Like, imagine this, right? Imagine when we're discussing a team. So MIBR is a great example, right? Imagine at the moment. So I'll pick a classic map that MIBR's always been good on. So Train would be an obvious one, or Mirage or something, right? Say one of these maps wasn't in the pool now, and so MIBR's doing badly. But one thing we could say as we're analysing them is, but of course, Richard, if they hold on till the summer, that's when Mirage comes back, and then in the same sense, by the way, that you do if you do like tennis, for example. Oh, well, it's clay court season. He's not as good on that. But if he waits, the grass is coming in. That would actually add an interesting like meta context to the scene. I think even people would change recruitments based on that sort of thing. It'd be very interesting.
Yeah, and I think as well, not just that though, right? Like all the people who are complaining about the scene being stagnant. Well, let's just say theoretically, whoever's the number one team in this part of the season, the first half, let's say 3 of their maps go out in the second
Imagine
half.
Nuke just went tomorrow for Astralis.
Yeah. Well, let's say Nuke and Inferno went. All right, game fucking on. Now we'll find out really who is the best. It adds an extra bit of spice.
Yeah, agreed.
So yeah, that's what I've always wanted. Maybe we get that. I don't know. But anyway, those are the thoughts about Vertigo. I know a lot of people wanted us to talk about it, and hopefully that covers all of our thoughts. But the main thing is I definitely want the community to continue to support what Valve are trying to do and understand that it's a small team. I mean, it really is. The Valve employees who fight for CS really do love this shit. And where if you like leather them because Vertigo sucks balls, they just won't make changes in future, and our game will stagnate. And then we have to pray for another version to come along. We don't want that. Right, other transfer news. How are we doing for time, by the way, Sam? All right, cool. Awesome. The French scene, LDLC. My God, I even made a fucking tweet about this, Duncan. We all said, right, obviously the Turkish dream is over. Major returns to France. What tools would Major get to work with? This in-game leader that very, came so close to creating an unthinkably great team with space soldiers. Had this really good roster of players, and they overachieved, if anything, given all everything that was going on around the team. So he comes back to France, this scene replete with talent. Well, fuck me, dude. I put the hashtag out, pray for Major, because this roster, right? The first player on the roster was Sixer. Like, imagine that. That's like a fucking welcome him home present where it's like, you know what I mean? It's just a fucking pile of shit on your fucking doorstep. Welcome home. Oh, yeah, you've been looking after my house, have you? Nah, I destroyed all the furniture and shit on your doorstep, mate. Yeah.
And the context of that is even crazy because Major and Sixer, I think, were both on Millennium in 1.6 back when actually Sixer, for people who don't know, was like one of the best French players. Now, he definitely wasn't even a godlike player in 1.6, but he was a top player in terms of the French scene in Central Europe. So, like, that's an example of where it's like, it's not even like it's a new player. Like, Major's literally getting to play with someone whose best days were when Major himself was playing like fucking 13 years ago or something mentally, you know, like this is not a good state of affairs. So as you say, if that's the first name you're coming out the gate with, fucking hell, we're not going much better after that, are we?
No, and it's like I said, you know, like it doesn't get any better from there. This is the thing. It's like, okay, you have to take Sixer. Fine. I doubt he's been practicing and improving his game in the downtime. So not only are you getting Sixer, you're getting probably the worst version of Sixer we've ever seen in CSGO. Fine. The next name, XMS. Right? Well, I mean, don't really know what to say about this. Player did announce his retirement at one point. Always good when a player who never really achieved anything still has plenty of time to achieve something. Basically, this motherfucker retired at 20 in CSGO.
I'm going to repeat the old joke premise, but there's almost something to it, right? When you're that young and that inexperienced in the game, you actually can't retire. You just don't play the game anymore. And if you can't see the distinction there, then you'll never get it. Like you didn't have some big celebrated career that you need to officially have an acknowledgement that you'll no longer be playing and that you're going to move on in your life from the thing that you did for a year and a half in a shit team nobody cares about. Like at that point in time, just get a grip, mate. You just didn't make it, basically.
Well, and then, you know, not only that, right? There was a period where, if I remember, because he joined the team shortly after that for just some online league, he even made a point of saying this is just for fun. Don't read too much into it. It's like, what is going on?
Who does he think he is? Like at this point, is XMS some fucking mad French CS:GO version of that woman from like Sunset Boulevard or something, who thinks like the whole world's just pouring over? What's going on with XMS today? Like no one even remembers you, mate.
But it's just mad. Like if he was 28, you know, if he was like Jax's age, you know, like 26 or whatever, right? Like,
and he's not even the best fat happy anymore.
I know, happy is. We'll talk, mate. We're coming to that. I mean, so it's just mind blowing. What do you know? What that says to me? That honestly says you just don't give a fuck about having a pro career, and you're 21 now, right? And this should be prime fucking gamer years. Your time to shine. You're getting a very good in-game leader. I don't know where his head's at. I don't know where his commitment levels are at, because this is a guy who seems adamant to retire, and it's like, when you do that, when you not only retire at 20 after doing nothing in your career, but still feeling like you have to announce your retirement, and then double down and say, even when you're still playing, I am honestly really retired. And now you come, well, DLC, that just screams, I'm just doing this for a paycheck. I don't really give a fuck. And I wouldn't want to play with a player like that. Simple as that. But don't worry, it gets better for Major. He has to get fucking the most ironically named player in the history of the game. Happy. Also named
one
after
of the
Schopenhauer.
dourest cunts I've ever fucking met in my life.
Great when he's having a beer, though.
What's mad is, right, people, because again, it's actually one of the misconceptions. People would assume that I am like the person just ranting about fucking stuff like in my videos, etc. But like, I like to have fun if I'm, in a private setting, especially if you're just letting loose, you're having a beer or something. That's where you do have a bit of banter, a bit of fun. You can poke fun at each other. No one's watching. Like, that's the sort of setting where like you truly realize who Happy is, because it's like, he never fully breaks character in that sense. Like, put it this way, guys, he never does just start like smiling and laughing and joking. Like that never happens. So he's a very unusual guy, put that way.
Yeah. Well, but I mean, it's just crazy, right? Because obviously his surname is Schopenhauer, and Schopenhauer did say life without pain has no meaning. It's like one of the most depressing philosophical quotes of all time. And then you have fucking Happy. It's just unbelievable that it's fucking real, isn't it? But anyway, this just proves to me what I always suspected, that XMS was indeed one of Happy's clones, and he doesn't want to stray too far in case he needs a kidney or something. Because I don't think there's no reason why you would ever assemble a team that is 6 at XMS and Happy unless it was a practical joke of some sort, right? And then they're testing out a guy called Roden.
That makes you think.
I'm sure there's some wordplay percolating in your fucking brain.
I just did it there, but there you go. Yeah, so that makes you think.
Yeah. Let me just, Sam, can you just show the stats page for this guy they're trialing? Right. Now.
Here we go. Fucking hell.
It's rough, guys. It's rough. It's rough. Right. But the, mate, I can't. He's getting bodied by Sprout. I can't do it.
That was an amazing Reddit thread I saw the other day. In case anyone's wondering how Dennis and Spiddy are doing over in Sprout, where they've been for quite a while now, by the way. Yeah. And they've made a whole bunch of changes. They've tried to do roster upgrades. So there was a stat, someone put it on Reddit the other day, that Sprout had won like a full best of 3 without a single member in the team having like a positive kill-death differential. It's like, that's the world they live in. It's like, we can win a game even though we're all shit.
Like,
I love tier 2.
I don't understand. Like, is something gone wrong in France where what passes for being a prospect?
This better be a cheap team, put it that way. Like, this better be like, they better be on like a fucking 1,000 a month. Because if anyone's spending real money on this, guys, come on. Like, at this point in time, I'd rather go and sponsor some team from like fucking Australia or something. Like, they might actually have talent. Like, this team is like devoid of any potential. Yeah. You know, almost every roster ever, Richard, you could always say this. Well, if this guy gets back to career form and this guy improves, like this lineup here, bear in mind, you've seen like 2 or 3 lineups now where Happy just never got it together again. There's not even a single player in the lineup you look at and go, this could be good. It's like there is no hope. There's no potential.
Yeah, it's just really strange. And I'm like just super sad for like Major Dude, because like, you know, we were talking about maybe he sneaks his way into G2 and imagine that, and what would that mean, right? A real IGL at G2. Like, nobody deserves what's happened to him. Like, he's had his fucking dreams be crushed with Xantares leaving over at Space Soldiers. That basically made them completely non-financially viable for any other sponsor to invest in for multiple reasons. And then he comes to France. All right, well, there's some potential here. There's some players. Have you met Roden? Have you? He's got a 0.7 average rating against Virtus Pro. He's hot prospect with your guidance. Like, fucking hell. What was the name of that fucking cunt in Shawshank Redemption who just carved something into the wall and then fucking tops himself?
Wasn't it like Brooks or something?
Yeah, Brooks. Yeah, Brooks was here. You know.
And yes, I do know literally everything about everything I've ever seen. So when you all sit back and go, oh, just look, anyone can look stuff up on Wikipedia. Can you look up everything you've ever seen or experienced in your life instantly, like a fucking Bran out of fucking Game of Thrones, can you daft old gun? I don't think so.
Why are you comparing yourself to Bran, mate? Why do you want to be compared to Bran?
Call me the fucking 3-eyed Thorin.
Jesus.
Do you want to see one of them? I won't make the obvious joke and go there.
I know where you're going. Obviously, it's the Hog's Eye, isn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, like it's just a terrible, terrible team. There was also as well. Hang on, what was the other bit of roster news that I wanted to talk about? Where the fuck did it go? And then there was a topic I want to bring up in a sec. Fuck, where was it? Oh, yeah, I mean, that was just fucking hilarious. I alluded to it earlier. Virtus Pro picking up. And again, I should stick to the promise of just not talking about them anymore. But they picked up, right, a player called Veggie. Yeah, God.
Virtus Pros, like, yeah. you know, there's we have this problem for anyone who doesn't follow like European soccer. There's a really big problem in football that players just hang on for way too long because we have all the different leagues. You can obviously just keep going down, can't you? So you always end up in England, for example, with some like legendary player who used to play for England, like Gaza or something, and they'll just be like they'll be like the player manager of like fucking Hull or something. They'll be like, and you're like, why are you still playing? And they go, I can still do it, like. like if I just fucking have 7 hot toddies instead of 15? Maybe I could they're just it's like just give it up, just fucking quit. And so I'm like some sort of mad Mr. Demotivator or something like, come on, you can quit. That's it. Stop doing it. You're not going to make it.
Some people need that lesson, though. I always thought the best example of that was when Edgar Davids ended up with like Barnet, right? And he tells this fucking story. You can go watch this.
That's actually quite ironic.
Yeah, it's got a mad Barnet.
Exactly.
Yeah, you can look this up on YouTube.
Or Lucian
from story.
League of Legends, as I call him.
Yeah. There was that lawsuit.
That's fine.
That's a reference. But yeah, there was this fucking bit where he's talking about like how he went there and he was like fucking playing a game with all these like unbelievable shit players who just never did anything. And he said in this interview, and he goes, and I thought to myself, I'm fucking Edgar Davids. It's like, it's true, isn't it? You've won Champions League, you mad cunt. What are you even doing in Barnet, man? What are you doing? He's just a fucking legend. Love him. But anyway, I mean, what I'll say about Veggie is he is no Roden, no doubt about that. Like he had, he had some decent performances. Nearly got 20 against.
Shall I say something edgy? Question that obviously is ridiculous. We're talking.
Shall you shut your fucking mouth before all this gets shut down?
This is one thing I do want to say, like, very quickly. Potentially timestamp this.
Kill me. No.
I'm not going to make any sort of actual comment objectively about the skill level of the best women pro players.
Oh, get me out.
But they're not even as good as Rodan. So I'm just going to say that. That's it. I'll leave it at that.
That wasn't that bad.
I'm just going to say, though, they aren't. So not even as good as him.
Right. Good. Excellent.
What is that?
Make that into a GIF or something.
Make
that like hashtag one or the other. It's a new segment.
He keeps doing it.
We'll have to see how his career goes. But I mean, he comes in and he replaces the one and only. Is the replacement again? I don't know.
I've no doubt in like 2 years, Shocks will pull some mad diva move, demand that Smiths and Rodan be in a team with him for the highest salary in the world or something. You know.
The best thing is, right? Like I've got to give it to HLTV. Like I like Mirror, right? But let me tell you, sometimes you've really got to rein it in. Like I got called out one time. Back when I was writing about esports over at Breitbart. Ooh, he did it, guys. So yeah, just sorry for triggering everybody. And I described Rick Fox as a legend, right? And of course, that he played in a legendary team, but he himself wasn't a legend.
Sure.
And it was quite interesting because, I woke up the next day and I was like, fucking hell. Look at all these comments on an esports article on this, conservative / right-wing website. My overlord Steve Bannon will be happy with me. I've radicalized so many people. That's all a joke, by the way.
It's about we have to live in a world where you have to say that as well.
Yeah.
Could you imagine them making even a fucking carry-on movie? Ooh, what about you, matron? That's just body sexual innuendo. I'm definitely not like fucking. You can't make any art anymore, can you? Not like this art we're making now. So anyway, get back to this fucking artwork. This is like painting the fucking Sistine Chapel, this is.
So anyway, I looked and it was like, 50, 60 comments of people saying, how the fuck can you describe Rick Fox as a legend? Then, at first I was a little bit like, but then I realized I'm writing for a different audience. And this is an audience that does consume mainstream sports over esports. And you know what? That's probably fair. I like Rick a lot. Is he a legendary player? You're a big basketball fan. You understand that's probably not the right label.
No.
For him.
I mean, here's the thing: you could have gone like if you the way you could have made it work is if you said Lakers legend or something.
Yeah, Lakers legend.
Even then, that's exactly. Like probably still borderline. That's the problem. Is you're right. It would be, the problem is it's the equivalent of like I'm trying to think what would even be the CS:GO version. Like put it this way. This will be tenuous, but put it this way, I personally wouldn't consider like Exist a legend in CSGO. He was someone who had a very good career and he was a great complimentary piece and he was with some legendary players. But here's the difference. That's the reason why I make this distinction is because, you know what, let's pick someone who barely has ever won in their career. So I'm trying to think of someone really good who hasn't won that much in CS:GO. I tell you what, how about someone like Valde at the moment, right?
Yeah.
So if he continues at his current trajectory, whether he ever wins a major or anything, he will be a legend because he has the potential to be one of the best Danish players to ever play the game. He was a star player. The difference is Exist's reward is he got all those trophies playing with an IP. Great. The reward for someone like Valde is whether he wins or not, he gets to be a legend if he just has an amazing career. So that would be how I would do the distinction personally.
But anyway, so the reason I'm bringing all of that up is like sometimes you have to check yourself before you're writing cliches.
What's he done here? How far's he gone on this?
Because we all do it, right? We all do it. In journalism, you have like just a go-to lexicon, a go-to phraseology that you use, certain words that you will only see. Well, you gotta always be thinking, otherwise you end up with ridiculous sentences like this, and it fucking tickled me. I hope all this build-up's worth it, right? But they said Veggie burst onto the competitive scene with off-mode black, and it's like, right, this is a player I've never heard of playing for a shit team.
Why
I've
is
never
Mira
fucking
trying to
heard
gaslight
of.
us on fucking HLTV.org?
In what way has he burst onto the fucking scene? I don't know who this cunt is.
This is like when you here's another thing, Richard. So, because I tell people I only watch tier 1, for me, if someone even enters tier 2 that I've never heard of, I'm like, who the fuck's this guy? You know, when people do that thing where they're like, what do you mean? I've known about him for 4 years. Like,
Yeah, I know.
Shut up, you idiot. None of us do, though, do we? Do you not understand? You are not the rest of us. We're not some fucked up Borg type assimilated entity, are we?
Yet.
Yeah, exactly. At the moment.
For now. All right, so 2 more topics I want to talk about. Then we'll do viewer questions, and then we'll wrap this the fuck up. Right. This nice leisurely episode of By the Numbers, done at a brisk pace. So a lot of people were hitting me up saying, have you been paying attention? Actually, before we even do that, 2 more bits of news that we're not going to dwell on. Calix has declared himself open to offers. I mean, brilliant. And
yeah, and by the way, on the other side, Dos Moret, if anyone wants to suck his dick, he's a game for it. So, like, what's that point even that fucking...
Hey, I thought I read something about that on Craigslist, actually.
Why does he get wrecked?
Mate, Sam, I don't know if you were actually there, but to be fair, I actually do in a mad way, because I'm fucked up like this as a person. I do genuinely actually cherish that getting off that line on Dust when we were doing the No Majors stuff. When we were watching Astralis play, and I was like, fucking it. I'd said some line like, Zipnix is better at knowing how to get a how to get a good 1v2 than you, Dust, or something like that.
Yeah, that was
It's pretty legit.
Yeah, that was good. But anyway, so Calix is open to offers. Good news, everybody. And then the other thing is Yam leaves ex-space soldiers, seeks new challenge. Is the challenge. Get good. Yeah, exactly. Seeks new challenge. Get good at the game, you shit cunt. How about that? We'll start there.
Why is he saying that? Seeks new challenge like he completed CS:GO or something.
Completed it, mate. Need someone else now.
Yeah.
So just again, just things that just tickle me, like the world that we live in, where
Man
like,
who's just finished cleaning himself in public bathroom after shitting himself seeks new challenges. Just walking down the street, eating a banana split without shitting your fucking britches. Is that a challenge?
Anyway, what people wanted me to talk about was they said that a lot of people were asking, have you been paying attention to what's been going on over at the new Mousesports? And of course, obviously, we haven't really seen a lot of them yet, right? And they've been percolating away. And obviously, this is a project that should have a lot of excitement attached to it because we've got Carrigan. It's his new team. There's young players on there. And I have, I caught a lot of the games, and they haven't played a lot, right, since this new lineup was assembled. They've played 1, 2, 3, 4. They played 5 series. They've only lost one of them, and it was the Vitality. And these are in online leagues, but they are best of 3s. They had a very good performance against Fnatic in March, which is what everyone made kind of stand up and
There's
pay attention
Mousesports,
to them.
yeah.
Yeah, there's Mousesports.
Yeah, and they were at the Pro League as well recently.
Yeah. But while they were at the Pro League, they dominated the X-Space Soldiers lineup. They beat Optic. They 2-0'd North. And what's been super interesting is things that I've noticed is right. First of all, Woxic's going off. He's actually playing very well in this lineup. The big news, as far as I can tell, is that Rops looks to be back. And of course, we were idiots not to fucking see it, Duncan. That for all Rops' lack of form and who was going to get him over this career hurdle. Who better than Carrigan, of course, to get in his ear? He's done it how many times now? Gets into the ear of a fucking star player who's having a bad downturn in form. And whatever he fucking say, he must give the best fucking pep talks of all time. Like Al Pacino at the end of any given fucking Sunday levels. It's unbelievable. Because Rops has been playing fucking lights out since Carrigan got there. And on top of that, this Frozen kid, and I've seen a lot of people saying, he needs too much work. He's been putting in it.
To me.
Yeah, I was going to say, if he needs to put fucking work in.
This team looks like it has mad potential.
Oh, yeah. Well, go on, give me your thoughts on it then.
Yeah, I watched the Pro League games they played because I wanted to see them play on LAN, obviously. And the group they were in's no joke. They had some decent competition in that group. So I actually thought that was actually, yes, it's not the absolute best teams. We don't know yet if they'd get smashed if they played some top team. But from the eye test of what they've shown so far, this is one of the most exciting projects in all of CSGO. When you were referring earlier to about how stagnant the top 10 is, etc., if they get it together, this team could fly through that top 10. And at that point in time, that's what would be cool to me, is if we live in a world where you have Ents, Renegades, and now this Mousesports team, now you've also got a whole bunch of teams playing quality Counter-Strike. It's not just the problem last year, the one area I get people hating on the Astralis era is every other top team had some bizarre flaw. So for example, Team Liquid had everything in the server, can't win in a big fucking final. FaZe Clan obviously had the in-game leader problems. Na'Vi has some old players that should probably be cut that they won't cut. These teams, it makes sense why they're not as good. A team like Mousesports, they have the world is their oyster with this lineup. They could do so much.
Well, yeah, and look, I think from what I've seen, they're not just doing it by having this heavy fragging start. It's not like some sort of diet phase, which I know various iterations of Mousesports have sort of had to bear that cross. There's a tactical system in place. They've been looking very, very good. You got Rops, who's getting back to his form. Carrigan once again has put himself into the position 5, if you want to call it that, where he just does all the dog's body works. Yes, his statistics have looked dog shit.
By the way, the funny thing, actually, obviously you're saying that because you've been playing Dota and watching it, etc. That's one of the things people don't get, is that is where that's why it never made sense to me that fans always counter the idea of there's no such thing as a support player, with the idea that every support player would do the same thing all the time. No, it's the concept in all MOBA games of who has the priority in the team, because even though there aren't literally the minions, it's the same concept. There's only so much space and resources and ideal fights and great spots to play in the game. So you're obviously going to prioritize those to the best players. And crucially, one of the best ways to do that is just like in Dota, where you have people who are the best. For people who don't know, the best captains in Dota tend to play hard position 5, where they get fucking nothing, because they know that they can make the absolute most out of nothing and give their best player everything, so that he'll just take the whole game over. That is an area, by the way, again, where someone like Nico or Shocks, who think they can be an in-game leader and be a fucking tourist for a month, you will never be able to do that. I know Nico's a million times better than Carrigan as a player. Nico couldn't do some of those things that Carrigan will have to do in these teams. So you always have to, even though it's a different aspect of the game, you're not going to see it on the scoreboard, you've got to give people mad props when they can do that, because it brings so much to a team.
Oh, definitely. And you know what? Concept for a video, because there's probably a lot of CSGO fans that aren't familiar with that concept. Maybe that is how we need to start thinking about it instead of trying to quantify what a support is. And instead of talking about it using that MOBA terminology, let's actually talk about how, sometimes your position one, your number one player, and then your number two. And,
For me,
and
it's like the
it's all gonna
balance
be
of the
different.
team. That's the
Yeah.
idea. It's like,
Yeah,
how do you
exactly.
balance it
Yeah.
out? That's why I always make the point to people that, like, obviously you can have a team, you could really have a team that had like the three best players in the world, but here's the thing that's different from how I would make the team and other people make the team. If I have the three best players in the world in the team, I'm going on those last two spots for people who are all about like fucking team play and playing with no resources and setting other people. That's what's going to make that team win. The actual flaw that teams like FaZe Clan had was thinking you can just keep adding more and more star players, where it's like, as you see in FaZe Clan, well, how often have you ever seen Rain go off at the same time as all the others? No, it just doesn't happen. Like, it just, like, somehow they can't coexist in that fashion. It's a naive kid's dream to think you can put like the four best players. It just doesn't work that way. So just as a premise, it just makes so much more sense for building teams. Like, if you just look at the way it ends up shaking out.
Well, that's what Carrigan's done again, and in doing that, Chris J is like able to get, like, because it's like you say, it's a travesty. I've never seen a guy switch things up so much to kind of make each different lineup he's been in work, and now he's finally getting some space because Carrigan's there. No more having to be an in-game leader. You want to up, you want to do this, you want to do that. He's got a bit more license to play the way he wants. So definitely excited by where they can go. Obviously, it's early days yet, but this is the time you want a Carrigan lineup. In fact, actually, I would go this far. Like, Carrigan is a fucking genius because Mousesports are currently 21st in the world rankings. But joining now with that roster he's got, like, legit the only way is up. So even if they're underwhelming to a certain degree, as part of Carrigan's legacy, it's going to look amazing because they're going to be knocking on the door of the top 10 in 3 months. And that is peak Carrigan time. That is when you get the best out of Carrigan lineups. At the start, the honeymoon period, when no one knows what mad tactical shit he's going to pull out, when all the players are on the same page. It never lasts. The egos will come in, and no doubt Carrigan will get fucked over again and then have to join another team, and the cycle will begin anew. But I'm super excited about seeing where Mousesports go. And then the other
That's one thing, though, I want to say, though. One thing I hope that teams start to do is understand which pieces to build around. So even though, yes, listen, if I actually had to pick in FaZe Clan of which players to pick, the circumstances mean that FaZe Clan is a rare exception where if I had to pick between Nico and Carrigan, who stays in the team, I would pick Nico because he is so young. He's got so many years ahead of him. He's so absurdly good that he like defies normal player rankings, etc. And so as a result, of course, you have to build around him. But I tell you what, if it's anyone less than Simple, fucking Nico, Device, I'm taking the in-game leader as the guy to build around, not that guy. Because here's the difference is if this lineup didn't work out, for example, like say one or two players in this team aren't playing well, I don't want to remove Carrigan. I know what Carrigan can bring. I'd rather try another player. Like, let's bring someone in who fits his style or someone who he wants to work with. Like, that's one thing I hope becomes the future because I feel like that's the biggest mistake teams have made. Because look at how many orgs have had a legendary team and then eventually they drop mega, mega far off. Well, one of the problems is if you're kicking in-game leaders, there's so few in the scene, you're probably not going to get another legendary in-game leader. So now you're stuck with like, it's like, it would be the equivalent of like kicking a legendary quarterback when he still like has a few good years left in him. Why would you do it? Like the gamble on the new quarterback's so insane anyway. That's like not really worth it in most cases. Like ride it out, see what you can do with that guy. So I hope in the future, teams like Cloud9, Mousesports learn the lesson that rather than get stuck in purgatory, stick with the guy who can make the rest of the pieces better and put better pieces around him. That's a better strategy long term.
Mate, the worst thing is as well, you're bringing up the fucking NFL analogies. Drafts around the fucking corner.
And everyone's going to do that, mate. Oh, we're all just going to get the next quarterback. Didn't you know everyone in fucking college is actually the next Dan Marino? They're not, though, are they? They're not.
Have you seen the fucking what's been going on over at the Raiders?
What they've been doing?
Well,
I know they've got 1 million picks, so they must be going ham, right?
Well, yeah, but this is the thing, right? Gruden dismissed all of the fucking scouts because he was worried about like leaks coming out of the camp because apparently like some people are talking instead of doing what we need to do. We got so many fucking holes we need to plug, and we got 3 fucking first round drafts to do it. Right, motherfucker sent all of his scouts home, and now the talk is that he's gonna try and get a shit hot quarterback to fucking come in and replace Carr, who is like the
He's
third
pretty solid.
highest.
Yeah.
Well, look, he's been poor the last 2 seasons, but it's just a fucking nightmare. And it's like we're literally like 2-3 days from the draft. I can't do it, mate. It's killing me. It's killing me. We need a
Just
fucking running back.
trust in Gruden. He's the best.
If you're gonna go offensive, yeah, I know, right?
It's going to work out in the end. He's going to win the championship.
Oh, mate, you're so wrong. You're so wrong.
And on that day, as Khalil Mack cries one tear, saying, "I could have been in that team if I'd have been."
I got a fucking Mac shirt in there, man. I fucking like nothing but love for Mac. The worst thing is as well, the Wembley game next season is Chicago Raiders.
Should go.
Yeah, brilliant. Why do I want to like coming around and watching my ex-wife get fucked by someone who's better than me?
Listen, I know you're not. I know to you as not a Google employee, that seems like a weird concept. Probably should just timestamp that for the VOD anyway. It's on YouTube, and it's to take that out. I in no way want to imply
they demonetize this shit anyway, man.
You know, by the way, speaking of which, just as a quick aside, and this has already become the new show we're doing for Dessert, which has nothing to do with these. I'll just say, as an aside, you know, when people bring up quotes, and it's only now, like half the problem for anyone who doesn't know, if you were on the internet before 2016. Or in certain parts of gaming, 2014, like that's like the Alice's fucking mirror into Wonderland. Like everything before that was one world, and everything after it is a different world, even though things look the same. So you just see things where you think of the old context and go, "Fuck, that is how we used to see the world." So I saw a quote the other day that was by Christopher Hitchens, and it was when he was at like one of those like authors at Google thing where they used to invite like best-selling authors to come and give a talk. And in the quote, he was saying something along the lines of like, when someone tells me I'm offended, I say I'm still yet to hear your argument. And he like was making this like very bold like statement about like free speech and about the fact that you should have to like offense doesn't really count for that much. Like think about the fact that he said that at Google to Google employees. Like this is like in 2007 though. Like at the time they will have applauded. Yeah, I agree with that principle. Obviously now like they're literally people who will like remove you from the whole internet on the basis someone's offended.
Oh, mate, like I'm waiting because I don't know if it's happened yet. It probably hasn't. I missed it. But we're only a year or two off a complete revision of all of Christopher Hitchens' work and how Christopher Hitchens was a precursor to the alt-right or something like that. I mean, that's coming.
Especially because he defended free speech. So that's like they always like to use that as the angle, don't they?
Yeah, and I was critical of certain religions, if I remember accurately. All religions in a lot of ways, some more than others. But yeah, it's going to be, it's like I've always said, I wish the man was still around for his genius and his work. But in a way, I'm also glad he's dead because nobody gets.
It's the same with all my favorites.
We all get broken on the wheel.
I go the other way, Richard. Everyone else goes, "Oh, imagine if bloody Bill Hicks and George Carlin and Christopher Hitchens and Hunter S. Thompson were all alive." No, thank God they're not. Thank God that they got to live in their era where the rules made sense to them. They killed it in the rules of their game, by the way. The problem is now it's like taking someone who played tennis and just going, "The new rules is snooker. You've just made a foul on every single move you ever did in your career." It's like, how stupid would that be to go back and do that to someone? Like that's that's a point no one ever makes. This is how you know that people really don't understand how bad some of the identity politics has gotten on the internet now. Like it's not just that we're making like this boogeyman out of all these SJWs. People on the internet in prominent positions are trying to deplatform people who've been dead for hundreds of years and haven't done anything in that time for like not being in tune with the 21st century's identity politics. Like this is how far we've gone. They're trying to deplatform a motherfuckers from a library.
Right. There was, I'm not even joking, right? There was one day recently. In fact, I'll give you the exact date where it all went down. February 24th, I think it was. And what happened was there was no crisis. There was no and by crisis, obviously, I'm being sarcastic. There was no somebody said a bad thing, somebody did a bad thing. Donald Trump made a stupid tweet. For the past 2 days, apropos of nothing, it seems, variations of impeach Trump has trended. Guess we
Yes.
just, it's like, do we even have reasons anymore? Whatever. Let's not make it political. But anyway, because there was literally no one to cancel, no one had said anything bad, no one had done anything bad, motherfuckers went through the archives and they decided out of the blue that due to a 1971 Playboy interview, John Wayne had to go.
Oh, I
He's
remember this.
dead.
Yeah.
He's fucking dead. He's been dead for decades, not just years. And they're saying, we must rename the airport. Yeah, he was a piece of shit, didn't you know? What, you honestly thought the guy who, when asked about why he did so many Westerns, said, yeah, the Native Americans, didn't call him that, of course, the Native Americans, yeah, as I see it, they had all the land and they were being selfish with it, so they deserved what they got. You think he has a progressive worldview, do you? You're looking to him for a progressive worldview. Plus, he's a fucking actor. They're all morons to begin with.
Of course.
Right? Why on earth would you expect any, why? And no, now we must rename the airport. Now we must not show John Wayne films. All of this nonsense. I'm looking at it now. The Hill, the Daily Wire, Fox News, fucking political LA Times.
Well, it's like
really?
they did it
one
they did
day.
it
They just had to make somebody. They brought him back from the dead.
They did this in Korea, where when those players, the two famous players in StarCraft Brood War and StarCraft 2, got banned for match fixing, who were legendary players, they just literally removed them from all the history. And the most egregious example was the OGN studio used to have a wall of champions. So if you went to the one that Xavier won, it just has a silhouette of a person and just doesn't say the name of the person who won the tournament. That is so mad Orwellian. I can't even handle it. It's you're just talking about fucking video games now. You're gonna, just because he did something, you're gonna delete his entire history.
Yeah, but again, it's when's the Michael Jackson back catalogue getting deleted? When's that happening?
Oh, didn't you? Well, they basically started with that Simpsons episode, didn't they?
Oh, actually, fuck yeah.
That's depressing as fuck, isn't it? There's another example. That video just doesn't exist. So that episode, we just imagined seeing that one, Richard. It doesn't exist now. Sound.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me
wrong.
wrong.
Want to see where this goes, though. If this is where it starts, where the fuck does it end? Where does it end, though?
I don't know, mate.
I mean, first of all, I'm not even going to be able to get all those streaming on-demand episodes of Jim will fix it anymore.
The Louis Theroux documentary went missing for a little bit.
Really?
Yeah.
What did he do?
What, Jimmy Savile?
No, I meant Louis Theroux.
Yeah, he did a day with Savile. Yeah.
I didn't connect that you meant that separately.
I thought it was Duncan. I have some bad news. What the fuck? Yeah, man.
The question is, what fucking didn't that guy do? Turns out.
I know. Yeah, the works. But anyway, yeah, it's all mental, isn't it? Right. So, have we still got time for the last topic, Sam? We got 10 minutes.
Go for
5 minutes. All right. Just checking, keeping it. Right, well, I wanted to bring up, of course, because everyone says, how irrelevant we all are. And
while watching our show every week, episode 70 or
whatever. Yeah, it is mainly the people who tune in, actually, who say that we're irrelevant. But we obviously did, a long period of last week's show talking about the whole refresh thing and, potential conflicts of interest and how we need to fix components of it, that what they're doing. And bizarrely, as it often happens, after the show, there was an interview with somebody from Refresh that sort of addressed some of these concerns. And it was a guy called Geordie, is it Roig or Roig? I don't know, but it's spelt that way. So apologies for mispronouncing your name, sir. And he's the VP of Commercial Development and Partnerships at Refresh Entertainment. And he came out and he did He did a bunch of,
Here's the thing: in
answers.
theory, and I'll give credit to the I don't know who it was who did the interview from HLTV.org, but they did try to press him. They tried to give him a real proper interview, and if we said something, they didn't just let it pass. They said, "Well, is that the case though? Surely it's this, whatever." So they did a good job. But I tell you what, the first vibe I immediately got from this, which I even did a tweet about it, was. It's Pietro Franguelli again, isn't it? Yeah. It's another one of these guys where what happens is, this is where you can tell. I'll give everyone who's just a fan an insight here. This is what happens when someone comes from the corporate world into esports and thinks the rules are all the same and tries to address the public. They start spamming like middle management buzzwords and giving non-answers and saying things which blatantly like giving you logic that they then give you the conclusion, which is actually 180 to what the logic would say. Like doing all those things that they think is going to work in the media world and the corporate world. And they don't know in esports, there are people who are just going to read that and go, "You're just full of shit, aren't you?" And they're going to be like, "What? How did you see through my magic trick?" It's like, you're just full of shit, man. Like you can just tell you're full of shit on this. So there's a lot of wonky stuff in this interview. I was thinking of doing a video on this actual one.
Yeah, I was thinking about maybe going over it on a stream at some point because
there's like so much to break down behind what he said, basically.
Yeah, like there was just some weird stuff in it. Where it was like...
I'll give you an example. Here's a very quick example. I'll give everyone a quick sample. So at one point, he tries to explain that the format of Blast Pro Series being a bunch of best of ones makes it harder to win than other tournaments. Now, that guy is literally trying to use logic as a dick to fuck your mind. That doesn't make any sense on any context. That, like, logically, by it being a bunch of best of ones, it is objectively easier to win than any other tournament which doesn't also rely on best of ones, because you only have to win one map against each opponent. You don't have to win a best of three or go through a whole system. Like, he is literally using logic and giving you completely the opposite conclusion and just being like, "You're fine with what I just said, right? After all, I am Mr. Refresh." It's like, no, that's just one sample of the sort of absolute nonsense some of the shit answers he gave in this was.
And also, in case anyone's wondering, "A Dick to Fuck Your Mind" is also the title of Thorin's first spoken word album.
Exactly.
He's on the cover. Hey, I'll have to show you when we get off the call, man. I found a fucking funny picture of talking about collusion of poker. And I don't know if you remember, it was the picture where I took three in quick succession as you were talking to a woman at the bar. And it was you talking to this woman, like, looking super interesting. The next one where it was sort of a bit like, what's going on here?
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and then the third one is just you turning around with this, like, fucking cackle Ethy's grin on your face. Just like, yeah. Thumbs up, like some sort of transaction had just occurred. Like, so I'll have to show you that. Anyway, the thing that immediately leapt out was when somebody, and I thought the interviewer did a good job actually, being a bit bullish.
Like I said, did a good use of shit.
Yeah, and he said, "I think the fear is more around exclusivity. Is that something you're looking for?" And the answer was, "Not right now." And it's like, oh, okay. So when all the pieces like Tetris, when it's all fallen in, you'll have exclusivity then, right? So it's like, even in...
This cunt's he's so bad at lying. He's almost like, they're like, but what you're doing is sort of the first precursor to exclusivity. No, I disagree. I would say it actually isn't, though. No, but I mean, if you were to see, like, if the same thing happened and then another tournament dropped out, then you would basically have almost a form of exclusivity. And it's almost like he's like, "Oh, gosh, I've never really thought of it that way before. Yeah, I'll get back to you on that one." It's like, how fucking transparent are these guys? Come on, man, give me a break. Don't, as the infamous saying goes, don't shit a shitter.
Yeah,
come on.
And there was just lots of things in there. Now, I think it's good in a way that they felt compelled to come out and address everything that was going on. It showed that the backlash, the community, definitely felt negatively.
I don't even think
that they vocalized it.
If someone out there's from Refresh, they might naively think, and we certainly like to play with this implication that we're the ones who started like the backlash. No, realistically, right? If everyone loved Refresh and Blast, they just tell us to fuck off. It happens to us many times when we reveal actual wrongdoing. So I would just say this: what happened was there was a sentiment underneath the surface of people who were a bit frustrated and did think these events weren't that good and did wonder what the fuck is the deal with the company that owns the best team owning the event. Like, and what we did is we just tapped into that. It just resonated. Our way of presenting the same message hit those people, and it turns out I'm actually impressed. I'm amazed how many people in the community do care about this topic, a very legit topic.
Yeah, and you know there was some interesting stuff that came up. I haven't talked to Scoots about it, but he did tweet something out, sort of saying like that. Well, I mean, I guess written between the lines that he disagreed with our like presentation of it, which I'm intrigued by. Where he was saying he didn't feel that tournament organizers were pressuring even teams that they own or players that they pay to attend these events, and that it actually isn't even possible to do that the way everything is stacked in the current climate. And obviously, Scoots is associated with the CSPPA, so that's interesting. I'd like to know more and pick his brains and talk about that when I get an opportunity. Maybe that's something we can do for a video. But for me, there was something that was very similar to the PEA, like that we're looking at now, a refresh. And the thing that he kept harping on about is saying, hey, it's only 5 weeks a year. It's only 5 weeks a year. And there was a response to that from another HLTV writer called Ben CSGO, and he said, let's do the maths, because he said it's only 5 weeks a year, 5 days per week, do the math. And then he did some very disingenuous math, if we're being honest about it. Like, I mean, we can talk about it till the cows come home.
Both of them were disingenuous, just on the opposite ends of the spectrum, weren't they?
Yeah, exactly. Like he said, a blast event takes up 3 weeks because you need rest either side. I mean, that's just not true. But what he's got the right idea, and I'll tell you about something and how it used to work back when ESL was the great evil in CS:GO, and they were pushing for exclusivity and trying to take over the market. They got everyone else together in like a Skype group, it would have been back then, and they had access to a top secret Excel spreadsheet that only tournament organizers had access to. And what you did is you put your events in a calendar that everybody had access to say when they were booking dates and what they were doing. And basically, one of the reasons why everybody got super pissed off with ESL, one of the reasons why, like, even now, Face it are reluctant to talk to like the Esports Integrity Coalition, because they perceive it's like some backdoor for ESL to get intel or control them, is because ESL would just stick events in very key parts of the year. If you're an event 2 weeks out from a major, the week between is a no-go. It's a dead zone. No one's going. The week before, it's a dead zone. No one's going. If you're if you come out and you have all of your dates pre-planned and you insert them into the calendar wherever you want, and maybe another company has done that and there's some slight overlap, people will go to the event that has the most prize money, or is in the most accessible location, or is in a place where immigration laws aren't quite as egregious. Like Trump's America right now, where actually there was an immigration specialist esports law firm put a paper out explaining how it's getting worse. I was told, apparently, because I'm so pro-Trump, now that I'll only care about it now that it's affecting esports. Well, no, I think it's absurd. I've always said the fact that esports doesn't get recognized as P1 visa status and anything that makes it harder for us to do our jobs as athletes or talent, I'm obviously very much against. But anyway, what the Blast are doing is they are taking advantage of calendar bloat, right? They know that they can put their super chill, best of ones, glamorous location, we look after you event in key parts of the calendar,
and make a deal with the teams. Literally, maybe pay the teams, give them rev share.
Well, they are. That's what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they're doing, and because of that, that occupies so much space in the calendar. Because you can't go back to back now with a Blast tournament, and you certainly can't go head to head with a Blast tournament. And that's also a thing. As we move on in this wonderful world of esports, It's happened in the past, certainly with StarCraft events. It'll happen again. People are going to try and go head to head. Why can't we have two CSGO events on the same weekend of similar size? No reason, enough teams, enough money, enough viewers, can all work. But fighting that battle when you have exclusivity for or contracts with certain attendees, if you don't have those contracts or can't afford those contracts, you're completely shit out of luck. You cannot bargain or compete in the marketplace. So, yes, in essence, what these Blast tournaments do, it doesn't just work out as 5 weekends out of 52 in a year. It actually works out as a lot more in real terms, especially if you want to have a rest from travel and, you know, and again, it's only tournaments of a type. What the people who will feel the most what Refresh are doing, and I should love this by all accounts, but I don't, is DreamHack. The Blast should absolutely crush DreamHack. It should push them out of doing CSGO tournaments altogether.
Already basically happening. You've seen Navi and Astralis drop the Dallas one, I think. Something like that.
Yeah. And listen, obviously I have my differences with DreamHack. Obviously, they still continue to employ somebody who poured gasoline on an already sizable fire by publicly lying and has never been held accountable for the lies that he told. And
especially because the repercussions of that didn't even just end there, did they? Anytime anyone Googles that shit can be found.
Yeah, you know, that ridiculous twit longer. But we tried, you know, we tried to smooth things out. They did lie. I can prove that they lied if I ever want to start throwing people under the buses and going crazy about it. But I'm always just content that now it's worthless, effectively, because it's just, you know, I threw somebody through a steel cage at Hell in the Cell DreamHack 2015. But I don't want DreamHack to die out and go under. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, even then I probably would have been salty enough that would have sounded like a good thing. I think DreamHack is an esports staple, but you can see how they're feeling it. You can see how their events, you know, they have been scaling down, but they still do good events. They still do watchable events. Sure. They still have good teams there. They still have events worth attending. Unfortunately, what's happening now is Refresh are now sweetening the pot, sweetening the deal for teams that maybe would attend a DreamHack, and all of a sudden, DreamHack doesn't look quite as exciting anymore. So it really does have a lot of potential and a lot of not sinister implications. The Blast are just doing business. This is how it is. But let's not pretend it's just 5 weeks out of a year, 5 weekends out of a year with no repercussions. Because there really is a real chance that DreamHack have to throw in the towel on doing CSGO events the way things are going. Maybe some people think that's a good thing. I don't know. You know?
Problem is, I'll just say this. Like, by the way, the irony of this whole scenario is that this guy is doing this interview to send the message to you of like, look, we're not at all trying to have exclusivity. In fact, we're transparent and we let the community ask us questions and we answer your questions, while simultaneously not answering questions, actively being disingenuous, even about basic facts like how a fucking calendar works, acting as though anyone can just have their event start at 9 a.m. Monday morning when your event ends on a Sunday. As an example, obviously Blast Pro Series goes on Saturday, but you know what I mean? Like, that example is actively disingenuous. So what someone like him doesn't understand, it's the same problem as Pietro Fringuelli, is they don't get how slimy they come off. Like, the whole time this guy is talking this interview, I'm waiting for him at the end to tell me how when he prices up my fucking used Ford Fiesta, he's going to have to put an extra price in for cleaning and for the floor mats. And like, the guy's a fucking used car salesman. It's ridiculous. Like, these guys come off as so creepy that now my suspicions are doubled than before he gave me all this information. Because it's like, why is he going out of his way to be so fucking creepy and disingenuous of all the shit he's telling me?
Yeah. So it's a situation to monitor, and you know, we'll keep talking about it because we always do, and we'll always get the allegations that we're only doing it because they won't hire us and all this other stuff. At the
pretty
end of the
easily
day,
falsifiable one, right? Just go get all the companies we don't work for and show us where we slag them off.
Yeah, and what you got to remember is as well, like it's cyclical. It's just there's always one company trying to take over the whole of the pie.
The other thing is as well, the way they do it will always be this way. Think it through for a second. Imagine you were a company who this is a thought experiment. You did want to have exclusivity, but you haven't got it yet. And in the current scene, you know that people are not going to like it if you say you are going to do exclusivity, right? You're not just going to not do it. You're going to do it while simultaneously explaining that you're definitely not doing it. And look at this hand, look at this hand, look on the left, while you're on the right hand, do what you want to do. And then you're literally going to wait until the last second. Think about even like, I'll take it politically for a second, but I'll use an abstract. Someone who wants to do a coup and take over a country by revolution doesn't go around every second before they've won going, by the way, I'm doing a fucking revolution now and I intend to take over and install myself as a totalitarian dictator. No, that would be the last thing you do. What you do is present it as the exact opposite. No, I'm doing a people's revolution. And it's actually the people who must rule and take down these cyclical tyrants, etc. Meanwhile, the whole time you plan to be a tyrant yourself, but you don't admit that until it's all in place to you. Why the fuck would you give the game away now when everyone could rally the troops against you, when key people who could stop you now could ally and beat you? No, you're going to wait until the fucking penny drops at the last second with those people like, oh shit, we've been outpositioned. And then when it's checkmate, then you admit what you were trying to do all along. It benefits you nothing to do that right now and say it. That's why ESL to this day have never admitted they even wanted it. Because what would it benefit them to make that admission?
Yeah.
Nothing.
So, I don't think anyone was taken in by it either. I think in essence it was just empty noise. But
nice effort though, nice try. Did fail, but whatever.
They did have a bash.
Don't worry, I'm sure there'll be some idiots out there, just like with that same interview where Nico was like, I don't want to be the in-game leader, and they're just linking me that. Why do you keep saying Nico wants to be the in-game leader? Look, he said he doesn't. Like, I don't know what metric for evidence you guys need, but if I was a judge in a court, I wouldn't take as primary evidence the fucking eyewitness testimony of the person themselves. Like, well, actually, Your Honor, I didn't murder the person because the person who's been accused of murder, so I didn't. Well, that's all I need to see. Case dismissed. Like, that's what plebs are like on Twitter, isn't it? Like, the court of public opinion is pure shit. It's one of the shittest courts ever created. Dear Jim, can you fix it for me to have a brilliant court of public opinion?
Anyway, I just realised as well, Sam, as we're about to wrap up the show, I didn't plug the sponsor at the start.
Don't worry, I'll cut it in front again. We'll do the old classic edit.
I'll do it now. That'll do. Chop that in. Right, and now we obviously thank our patrons. And rivalry.com again. That's right. All the stuff I just said. wait, that doesn't work. We do it as a show. Okay. You can also go to rivalry.com/RLS and support the show, support the YouTube channel, all the content that's on there. Qualify up to $350 VIP bonuses. And also, if you type exclamation point Thunderdome in the Twitch chat, you can find out about when they're doing giveaways. Thunderdome, it's completely free to enter, and you can win, thousands of dollars from just making predictions. So there you have it. And of course, thanks to all of our patrons, our $100 patrons: Jerky's Minion, Kashinath, Detlef Insomniac, Rekovic Onstein, Mikhail, Alex Ragnarsson, and Caboose 2741 rather. And our $50 patrons: Manuel Stockley, Sard Sawar, TC Owens, Watch Doge, Carve, Roosty, Nastradamus, Marcus Kiyumpar, Madsen, Colin Penny, and Benakagi Assassin. And one last thing, if you like stuff like the No Majors Club, and you like stuff like, me having a cast, we're actually going to be doing a CSGO tournament.
I just by the way, as a quick aside, I saw that guy who did that tweet to you, like, I am a big, like the usual, like, lie, like, I'm a big fan, but if you keep posting No Majors vlogs, I will stop, like, following. Like, who gives a fuck, mate? I don't need your personal reasons as to why.
Yeah, a lot of people have been pissed off about me putting all the VODs out, but what you have to remember is it's not there because I think this is super hot fire content that's relevant and everyone wants to see it. I'm using my YouTube channel as a curation tool, and people paid for that.
How lazy are these cunts? Oh, thing is, Richard, when I see that video appear in my feed and I don't want to watch it, I have to move my eyes 5 pixels to the right and go on with my life. This is unacceptable. Like,
it's mental.
It's not that hard, is it?
But anyway, what's going to be happening is, I was wanting to take on some extra work, obviously, to help, get Maria's surgery over the line and everything. And one of the people I talked to was obviously the Norwegian CS player, KF3, that some of you will remember. I'm sure Duncan does, from way back in the day. And he's a super cool dude. And as I said on a live stream recently, one of the reasons I kind of felt obliged to kind of like get involved and help him out with this thing is because obviously he played on an organization called Lions, and that used to be a friend of mine who passed away. His team that he used to manage, I'm sure, again, you remember Cheyenne Taleb, of course, who tragically committed suicide at like age 20. So because of that bond, we were like, yeah, we got talking and we decided we were going to do it. So we are doing something. We're doing a tournament together. It's basically, it's the 1-to-1 minor, it's called. It's €5,000 rather prize pool. And we're going to be broadcasting the finals live on this channel. And obviously, it's been open to everybody. Some qualifiers have already happened. Some of the teams are already in the mix. There's still sign-ups, by the way. If you have 5 players and you want to give it a go, there's still some regions you can sign up to. If Sam's showing this right now, the details will be there. If not, check my Twitter. It's on there. I think it might even be the pinned tweet. But we're going to be basically broadcasting the final. So it's going to be, I'm not saying Silvercast level, but it's going to be potentially some amateur CS, lots of room for mistakes, some fun. Vince has basically agreed to come along and do it with me. So we're going to be like them fucking 2 hairy bikers from fucking, the Cookery Show, just 2 big northern guys.
Gonna make a shepherd's pie in between, like.
Yeah, can you fucking believe the fucking state of that, man, Richie? He's had a fucking shitter. So we're going to be doing that. So hopefully you'll come by and support the tournament and support what they're trying to do. New company coming into the space. And there we have it. So me and Vince and maybe some other guests.
Maybe guest appearance by Raoul Mort. Problem is, if people don't know the reference, that's so stupid to really.
They're not as stupid as guys are turning up with a bucket of chicken to a live fucking shooting. Oh, fucking no, Raoul, me, like.
Calm down,
he fucking threw me out of a fucking nightclub once, like. You want this chicken, Raoul? You got to stop killing them coppers now. Mental. Anyway, so yeah, no, Raoul won't be there. He's dead, of course. Dead now, of course. But yeah, maybe if Duncan ever puts in guest appearances for free, who knows? Maybe he will.
Could happen,
yeah, it could happen. So support it. Anyway, thanks to Duncan. Great as always. Thanks to Sam, our, what was it, GOAT producer. And thanks to all of you for...
GOAT mum, it's not I can't even handle it.
GOAT producer, press his buttons.
Get me
I had
out.
to put that back in. But it's been a blast, and we'll see you on the next episode of By the Numbers. Until then, take care.